Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Deeper Dive presented by Odd Shopper. Got a one-game showdown slate tonight, but there's plenty of money for the taking. So hopefully some of us can get the winning lineups here. And we got the perfect guy to help us break this slate down. Adam, ShipMyMoney, Scherer. Adam, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty well. Looking forward to talking some showdown strategy with you because it's one element of DFS that I don't spend a ton of time on. So talking through it is always interesting to me.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be an increased spotlight on Showdown because obviously we're not getting 2 games a day anymore. We're only getting one every single day. So this is probably one of the first Showdown slates with a huge first prize. Although I know there were some, the second game in those 2 game slates often had 100K at first. So I got some experience under my belt kind of like playing those. But last night was a little bit of a wake-up call for a lot of us. Like probably most of you guys in the audience finished first along with me. And 150K at first became like $900. I'm like, dang. Like but yesterday's slate was kind of a unusual one. Like what did he see yesterday?
Yeah, I thought it was kind of unusual just because like value opened up, but it was still pretty obvious where people were going to go. I personally played it as poorly as I could. Like you at least got first place and lost money. If you go into lineup study and you sort by the lineups that had like the most dupes, I had the top four, and then I didn't have the fifth, and the fifth was the one that got first place. So I
Dude.
played about as poorly as I guess you could yesterday.
Yeah, I mean that just sounds like some brutal luck, but like I think yesterday was kind of an anomaly because you had Al Horford and Marcus Smart, both who like everyone was expecting to play. They hadn't missed any games so far. They're both ruled out a few hours before relax. So I think like that obviously made the salary on the Boston guys a lot more favorable. The problem with that is like the more like certain plays are favored over other plays as far as likelihood of being in the winning lineup, that means there's less ways to actually make a lineup that has a good shot at winning. So I don't know, like do you find that on slates with like crazy value like yesterday, it's just a little bit tougher to get unique?
Yeah, and I think it's kind of the same during the regular season, right? Like when you get those slates where some team rules out three of their starters, it's like, oh, this is fun. Like my lineups are going to be really fun to sweat because they're going to score a lot of points, and it's just like, oh, cool. I three out of the 8 spots in my lineup are 80% owned, and there's nothing I can do about it because in NBA, like that's the thing that I think is really difficult. Like in football or baseball, you can get very obvious values, but there's so much volatility because it's an event-driven sport that you can still just say, okay, whatever, I'll get away from this really popular play and hope for the best. In basketball, there's only so many things you can do. Like what do you only have limited options because so many guys just aren't even going to get a chance to produce. And then because it's not an event-driven sport, barring injury or massive foul trouble or anything like that, like somebody like Jason Tatum is never going to be flat out bad. Like his bad games, he's still going to be like a top 3 scorer in any given game. So it becomes really difficult in NBA, I think, to kind of balance between, oh, I'm going to give myself a shot at a solo win and, not being completely insane.
Yeah, definitely. Like I have seen some crazy lineups win a solo first recently. Like I know Mock Lovin had like a 42K salary lineup finish first. It was like probably a week or two ago. Uh and I'm like, damn. But like I think it can be like a little bit of a mistake. I know a lot of people watching probably have experience playing NFL DFS where like it's like any player can be that one of the highest scoring of the night, but in NBA, it doesn't really work that way. So like a lot of times if I'm looking at my lineup, if I'm trying to like evaluate if a 44K salary lineup's getting good, it's like what are the possible improvements you can make? Like the fewer options to like upgrade players is like the less stuff you need to go right. So if you can narrow it down and just it's hard to come up with an example without like an actual lineup, but I feel like a lot of times you're kind of boxing yourself out if you like if you don't spend all the salary, because there's just like so many ways that you can get beat. What do you think?
Yeah, like I think on tonight's slate, I think it's a little bit easier to maybe not, to not spend as much salary. Like for example, Jalen Brunson's $8,400. Spencer Dinwiddie's $6,400. Brunson obviously projects better. Brunson's going to beat Dinwiddie a high percentage of the time, but it's not like it would be the most insane thing in the world if Dinwiddie just goes out there, plays really well, beats Brunson some percentage of the time. But like on yesterday's slate, the issue, and it ended up happening for Bro, who I know has done some content for us, and he was solo winning for a while, but it was literally just he needed like I know he was fading Jaylen Brown, but I don't remember who the player was that he had played below him, but it was somebody that was just like, if this guy actually beats Jaylen Brown in a basketball game, like that would be such a wild outcome. And I think that was kind of the issue with yesterday's slate was, aside from, it was so easy to get to those top guys that aside from just saying, okay, well, cool, I hope Robert Williams beats Jason Tatum today. Like aside from doing something like that, it was really difficult, I think. Today, I think it's a little bit easier because you have a mid-range where everybody's kind of overpriced and projects within, at least within like 5 to 10 points of each other.
Nice. Yeah, so I think in general, like it's definitely like reasonably likely anyone within 10 points could outscore one another. And then it's like somewhat likely they closer get to 20. Like after that, it's just like such a like distant likelihood that it might not be worth pursuing. So it's all about weighing those risks a little bit. Yeah, I think that we should have an interesting one tonight.
Now, well, sorry, one other thing that I think is probably worth mentioning just for people watching, and I don't know if you agree or not, but I do think your showdown strategy probably should change a little bit depending on if you're somebody playing, like a handful of lineups in the large field tournaments or somebody 150 maxing. Like for you and me, I think it's probably a mistake to just not play any of, like to worry about dupes so much that we like don't play any of those top lineups like the one you played yesterday that came in first, because even though like that lineup winning isn't going to make you profit, there's still the bankroll aspect of like not trying to lose 100% on every single slate. But if you're somebody that's playing a handful of lineups, you certainly in that handful shouldn't be playing the most popular, a lineup that's duped 700 times. When you're playing 150 on a showdown slate, it's difficult to find, 175 lineups that are actually good lineups.
Yeah.
So you end up still playing that more popular one.
I think it isn't even like single entry versus like multi-entry, because like I think some people conflate like making a unique lineup with making a good lineup. Yeah. There's a lot of unique lineups that no one's playing, and it's for like a damn good reason. So right. Like the art of finding a unique lineup that actually has a shot to win is like pretty advanced. So I think it is a good advice to not go too far off the board. Like you want to be smart. Like avoiding those top 5 lineups, like you're saying, like what happened last night. Like if you avoid some of those like very, very top end lineups where it's just like everything like fits together too well, that can be a good strategy.
And to be clear, I'm not saying like if you're playing 5 lineups, you should be trying to play 5 unique lineups, but like avoiding those top lineups is huge. Like if you're picking 5 lineups, you should not be picking a lineup that's duped 700 times. If you're playing 150 lineups, having that in there, like if you played 150 lineups and you have the most popular lineups amongst those 150, I don't necessarily think you did anything wrong. It's just one of the top 150 lineups you played.
Definitely. All right, we got a couple of questions in chat, so let's get to these guys. Thanks, Benzo 1985 for the super chat. He says, "Hey, my G's, is it wise to play Luka and Curry due to the price for each? And is playing Showdown better odds than playing Classic?" So, for the first question, I think playing Luka and Curry together, like, absolutely nothing wrong with that. Like, I mean, like, it's hard to like, unless there's certain players that may like have negative correlations, I'd say you shouldn't worry too much about like having any combo of players in any lineup, unless if you just put Luka and stuff in the same lineup, it's just like it funnels you to the same lineup as everyone else. But I'm assuming that's not the case tonight. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think that'll really be the case. I mean, I think pricing tonight's just a lot sharper than it was last night, but it's not sometimes when pricing is sharp, it means that lineups are going to be like super duplicated because there's like one mispriced guy. But tonight, it's kind of like Luka is mispriced in the sense that he's still probably underpriced. But like the entire mid range is just a bunch of guys that are more expensive than they really should be. So I think it's still going to be pretty easy to differentiate, and you're less likely to be funneled to the same exact build or same exact lineups, even if you do go to Luka and Steph.
Agreed. And then the second part of this question is playing Showdown better odds than playing Classic. I think that the obvious answer is no, because like they're both kind of like raked the same. So like the net effect on the whole field is neutral. But I actually do find that Showdown, like it is a little like in general, like I find the Showdown slates have a little bit softer fields than Classic slates. I don't really know why. I don't think it's because Showdown's harder to beat. What's your experience?
I suck at Showdown. I am much better at Classic.
Okay. So
But like I don't even attribute that to the game type. I attribute it to the fact that I don't put nearly as much time into it.
okay. Yeah, there's a lot less Showdown slates with big prizes. So that could be another reason like that it's easier is because like not as many people have really gone a lot to figure it out. So all right, let's go to some other questions here. I saw a good one, but I lost it here. So if you have any good questions, make sure to repeat them here. All right, but guys, before we get into the breakdown for tonight's game, if you can hit that like button, me and Adam greatly appreciate it. That gives us the positive feedback, and that we need to give our best analysis. And also, maybe we'll get some good luck to not have the first prize split so many ways tonight. So hit the like button. If you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button as well. And then let's get to tonight's game. So let's talk about the road team, Dallas first. They're coming off a monster win over Phoenix, like two like huge blowouts in a row. Like, and now I'm wondering, like, are people going to think they have like, did that really change your opinion of them, or was that just a total fluke?
No, I mean it didn't change my opinion. Like Luka's a monster. I think that was a given, and he just reinforced it. But there was nothing that I took away there where like I'm expecting them to just walk in and roll over Golden State or something.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree. It's like I don't know exactly any reason why Phoenix played so poorly, but I mean this is a new series. Like I'm not really trying to learn too much from that. But let's start with some of the Dallas players. So one of the guys that had a monster game last game was Spencer Dinwiddie. He had 43 fantasy points. So I'm wondering if everyone's going to go back to the well tonight. We actually did update our Showdown ownership to be more accurate by like weighting in the recent results more. So we found that was a really significant factor. Now, because he did have this huge game last game, like it seems like most of the games he didn't play that much. It was Brunson and Luka getting the bulk of the playing time at the guard spots, but maybe after last game the coach wants to play him more given he performed so well. So what are you expecting with Spencer Dinwiddie?
Yeah, I mean, I think Dinwiddie's interesting. Like, I think his minutes are volatile. I think his production is volatile. Overall, this postseason, he's played 363 minutes. He has a 23% usage rate, 21% assist percentage. Luka was out for a few of those games, though. And we had seen typically in the games where Luka was in that Dinwiddie was just like a non-factor because you had Luka playing huge minutes, more than he does in the regular season. You had Brunson playing a lot. So even when Dinwiddie was on the floor, he was out there with at least one of those guys and really not doing much. But then in those last couple games of the Phoenix series, you still at least saw the ceiling from him. Game 6, he still didn't play a lot of minutes. It ended up turning into a blowout. But he shot 5 of 7, had I think 15 actual points, and then last game, just went nuts in the first half against Phoenix. So it's a situation where Dinwiddie is still a quality NBA player. He's the third best guard on this team, and so he's certainly capable of disappearing. But it's kind of like Tyler Hero-esque for me, where if he plays poorly or the game, like let's say Dallas is winning by double digits the entire game, and maybe you're just getting more of an emphasis on defending potentially, and he loses minutes. But like if he comes out there and plays well, he certainly can pick up more minutes. I think that he's volatile both in terms of his production and his playing time. And the other thing that makes him kind of appealing on this slate is that he's sort of on a price island. He's $400 less than Finney Smith, but he's $1,000 more than Reggie Bullock. He's a lot less expensive than Brunson and Poole and Wiggins and those guys. So that is kind of nice on a slate where you don't have a ton of good value. I think there's going to be a lot of builds where, I would love to get to Jordan Poole or Brunson, but I can't. And so I end up just saying like, okay, well, Dinwiddie fits in here. Let's hope for the best.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I think that like just fitting in your lineup, that's important. I'm just like thinking that he had such a monster game, and he like I'm just thinking like a lot of people are going to be on him, and it just seems like you could also play the other side of that, where like I saw in chat that Jake said Dinwiddie has definitely earned more run and he's got the hot hand, and like I agree with that, but like that can change like once he gets in the game depending on how he performs. So
Right. Like if he's out there,
yeah.
if he comes out and he just, misses his first 5 shots, they're not going to be like, oh, but he shot well against Phoenix. Let's leave him in. And similarly, like Dwight Powell could potentially play more minutes here in this series. Not that has a direct impact on Dinwiddie, but if somebody were like Kleba were to get hot or Bertans were to get hot, like, not that it's at all the most likely, but let's say Bertans gets hot, and so now you have lineups where like Bertans is the one knocking down shots, and he's out there with Luka, Brunson, Finney Smith, Bullock, and a center, so or not even a center, so like you're saying, Dinwiddie's one of the more likely guys to get hot off the bench, but if he comes out playing poorly and somebody else is making their shots, whether it's Kleba or Bertans or whoever, he can lose those minutes just as quickly.
Yeah, I think that's why we play the game. It's just hard to know what's going to happen once these guys get on the court. So we got a super chat here. Oliver, thanks for the super chat. He says Looney or Porter and Draymond or Poole. We'll of course give a full Golden State breakdown in a bit, but that is an interesting situation where Looney got a ton of run because he played well last game and Porter was out. Porter is back this game. So this begs the question, is Looney going to get more like a Kuminga role where he plays like 10 minutes, or is he I mean, he was playing a good amount of playing time in those games Kuminga started, so it's not exactly apples to apples, but is the team like a little bit more confident in like Looney if he starts versus Kuminga? Or I suppose they could go back to Kuminga starting and start Wada Porter in the second half. What are you expecting?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm curious to see what the starting lineup is. My guess when I projected this was that Looney starts. The reason for that is, one, he is coming off the good game, and two, Draymond had lobbied for him to be in. Now, I don't know if that was just matchup specific against Phoenix, and they're going to feel, or against whoever it was against, and they're going to feel differently here, or Memphis, not Phoenix, or what it is. But for now, I'm assuming he's going to start. Obviously, we'll have the starting lineup before the game starts. But even if he does start, I'm expecting that you're getting like 20 to 22 minutes, not the 35 that he played last game. Porter being back does make a difference. Kuminga is a huge wild card. Obviously, if he were to somehow be back in the starting lineup, then I assume he's just doing the same thing where he starts the first half and Porter starts the second half. But if Looney starts, Kuminga's like, what do you do with him? Because he's getting ownership. He's cheap. And the thing that I kind of mentioned about him this morning with Lofty is, amongst the inexpensive value options on this slate, Kuminga is really the only one that does anything when he's on the floor. Frank Ntilikina doesn't do anything. Josh Green doesn't do anything. Bertans is whatever. Like Kuminga, when he plays, he produces. It's just that how much is he going to play? Is he going to play? And he is getting ownership. So he's like a huge wild card to me. But my assumption for now is that Looney stays in the starting lineup but plays a lot less minutes than he did in the last game.
Yeah, and I think it's I agree with Looney starting. So like for this question, Looney or Porter, do you have a lean? I might lean towards Porter just because Looney is coming off a hot game. So maybe people are overestimating the chance that he repeats there.
Yeah, I mean, I would lean towards really whichever one's lower owned, but right now they're both around 31%. So it's not really a strong lean either way. I think if Looney is starting, I probably feel a little bit better about him, but I think it's really close.
And then Draymond or Poole, like Looks like our projections have Draymond 1 point higher on DraftKings, but significantly higher on FanDuel. So I don't really have a strong personal opinion between Draymond and Poole.
No, I have a slight edge for Poole, but it's again very, very close for me.
Cool. All right. Let's go back to the Dallas side. So
actually, I will say, sorry. Right now we have Draymond projected for 46% ownership and Poole for 26. So that would point me towards Poole.
Nice. Okay. Let's look up Dwight Powell. I'm kind of thinking that if Kevon Looney starts, like that will mean that Dwight Powell is probably going to play more minutes than if someone else started, given the matchup. So what do you think about that? Like, how do you think Dwight Powell's playing time in this series will compare to last series?
I think he plays more than last series. I expect that he's playing, around 18 minutes or so. Could play more. I'm not comfortable projecting him for like 22 to 24 minutes just because of how the postseason has gone so far. But I do think that he plays more than he did last series. The issue and the thing that kind of surprised me today was that he's priced up. I mean, he's 3,400 for someone who's not a very good point per minute guy. And even if he plays like 18 to 20 minutes, like he looks okay, but nothing special. And that's not that's not guaranteed playing time. So I do expect, obviously it's a 1 game slate. I expect that I'll get to him, and he's not getting much ownership either at 9%, which is really nice. But I do still have concerns about the playing time. But the thing for me is, like, right now we have Kuminga at 19% ownership. He's $1,200 less, so it's not quite apples to apples. But Kuminga at 19% ownership, assuming he's not starting, versus Powell at 9%. I would like to try and find that $1,200 for a guy that I at least know is going to step on the floor.
Yeah,
and is lower owned.
Yeah, that is a good point. Now, at the center position, like Maxi Kleber has been playing a lot. That I'm kind of wondering if this is a good matchup for Kleber because okay, so Golden State like often goes like with smaller lineups, which seems like it would favor Maxi. And he's been getting a lot more playing time than Powell, or I suppose Bertans also is a big on the team. But I'm kind of thinking Maxi is in a good spot here. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good spot and also a favorable price tag. Kind of like I was saying with Spencer Dinwiddie at 6,400 and not having a ton of guys around him. 5K for Kleber, like you have Porter at 46, you have Looney at 44, you have Bullock at 54, but that's pretty much it in that price range. And it's not like any of those guys are super appealing options that you're definitely just slamming in over Maxi Kleber. And he's getting a little bit less ownership too at 24%. So again, it's game 1. We don't know exactly how this rotation is going to go. If Dwight Powell were to play 24 minutes, that's probably a bad thing for Kleber. I don't anticipate them playing alongside each other a lot, but he's if he's knocking down threes, I would think he stays out there. So there's at least the path to him getting more playing time. And if he were to get 26, 28 minutes, he'd look like a pretty decent value at 5K.
Yeah, definitely. I also kind of think that if Draymond Green, like the more minutes Draymond Green gets at center, that might lean towards Maxi Kleber playing more as well. Like, do you have any opinion on that?
Not really, because I mean, it's not like Draymond's going to shoot threes or anything. So I don't like Draymond's small, but he's not spacing the floor. Obviously, he's a playmaker, but I don't view Golden State going small quite the same way as I do other teams. Like I still think that Dallas can just roll with whichever center they want to have out there.
Okay, cool. That is good to know. All right, guys, we got a special offer for you guys. So pretty much free money. You just bet $10 on any NBA money line tonight. So Dallas or Golden State, and if they hit a 3-pointer in the game, you get a $200 bonus. So I think the last time a 3-pointer was not hit in an NBA game was pretty long time ago. So that's just a free $200. You to get the deal for MGM, click the link in the video description below, or you can use the code NBADD to claim the $200. So if you haven't already gotten that free bonus from MGM, that's a no-brainer. Now the NBA DD code, DD for deeper dive. Remember to give us that shout out there. It's not due diligence, as you might have guessed. But all right, let's get to the next game. Or sorry, man, my old habits die hard. Okay,
all right, see you tomorrow.
All right, put on the music. let's talk about Luka. He has absolutely been on fire the last couple of games. So I think he's going to be a very popular choice at captain, and for good reason. But he has been like kind of like I don't know, like if I think he's been running super hot. Um, I don't know if we can really expect that level of play going forward. In fact, like one of my favorite bets tonight is the under on Luka's points because it's set at 33.5. We have him at 31.5. So found some value on Odd Shopper there, but it's hard to poke too many holes in Luka Doncic's game. How are you handling him tonight?
Yeah, it's pretty tough, I think, to get away from him because I mentioned it earlier too. It would be a little bit different if pricing were cheaper relatively on guys like Curry or even Jalen Brunson or Jordan Poole. You know, if you could just make a case for going balanced. But I think Luka's the most underpriced guy on the slate. And so even though he's the most expensive, clearly, I think that relative to his projection and what he does, I think he's more underpriced than anybody else. So I think he's the best value in the context of just price versus production, and clearly the top projected guy. It makes it really difficult to get away from him. And like he's his true shooting in the postseason is about a point higher than it was during the regular season, but also a 40% usage rate in the postseason, 38% assist percentage, 17% rebounding percentage. It's so difficult for somebody like that to truly fail, especially in a one game slate where you're not talking about Luka in the context of I need him to beat Giannis and I need him to beat Jokic. You're talking about him in the context of I need him to score a lot of overall points, and I'll find value elsewhere even if he's disappointing. Like if he has a disappointing game and scores 50 fantasy points, he's still probably in the winning lineup.
Yeah, definitely. Especially like I think a reasonable option is just putting him in the flex instead of captain. Like it seems like the ownership at captain, I think he was like 35% last game. Now with Steph Curry on the other side of this one, I think he'll draw some ownership at captain as well. So not quite expecting 35% for Luka at captain today, but we have him at 30% in our ownership projections and 46% at utility. So do you have any sort of lean between putting him at captain or at utility?
So I haven't built lineups yet, like tournament lineups. But the one thing I did notice this morning when I did the show with Lofty, we were kind of just messing around in Fantasy Cruncher and seeing what different lineups look like. If because first I just ran my top 100 projected lineups and your top 100 projected lineups, and we were both getting 60-70% of Luka at captain, but that was obviously with no randomness or anything. But then we started saying, okay, well, what if you just like remove Damian Lee and Frank Ntilikina from the player pool and see what happens? Is Luka forcing you to get to those guys at 1K? And one thing I noticed was that like if you forced Luka captain lineups without those guys, and then you forced Steph captain lineups without those guys, your lineups didn't look very different. It was for the most part you were just playing Steph at captain instead of Luka, and then you were playing Luka at utility instead of Steph, and maybe you were upgrading, making some small upgrade from Jordan Poole to Jalen Brunson or something like that. You weren't getting massively different lineups. And that actually made me think that there's a good chance I end up playing more Luka at captain, just because even though he's more popular than Steph, you just weren't getting the sort of trade-off that I would want to be sacrificing those points at captain if I am paying up. It's different if you were to say, okay, well, I'm just going to pay down and I'm going to go, Otto Porter at captain or Kevon Looney or whoever, and just get, like a totally different lineup where I can play a bunch of really good players at utility. I think that might be the route that I go more so than trying to get to like Steph over Luka in a lot of lineups at captain.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's there's a huge difference between Luka and Steph today at captain, especially because if you go to our showdown projections, we have the value column that really shows you for the price how many points of projection you're getting. And at 13.4K, Luka is +7, 11K, Steph is only plus 1.7. So like from a points per dollar standpoint, Luka is like a superior play. And that makes him a lot more likely to be at captain in the winning lineup than Steph. Now the ownership difference is only about 2-1. I kind of lean with you that maybe just going for Luka and trying to mix it up elsewhere is a good play at captain. So I think that's solid. One guy that, well, let's keep talking about Dallas here. So Bullock and Finney Smith, guys that play a ton of minutes, but don't always produce. In fact, most times they probably don't. But as far as guys that just can fit in a lineup, they're always there. So do you have any strong feelings about Reggie Bullock and Dorian Finney-Smith?
I think that they're kind of the same player. Finney Smith is the better point per minute guy, but he's also $1,400 more expensive. I'm kind of surprised that, and again, I mean, I haven't built tournament lineups yet, so it makes. I'm not saying I'm surprised in our ownership projection. I'm just surprised the way it turns out that Bullock and Finney Smith are projected for the same ownership, because my assumption was that Bullock was going to be more popular just because pricing is tight, and I thought that $1,400 would go pretty far for two similar players. But I feel similarly about them from a DFS standpoint, where I'm fine getting to either of them. I expect them both to play huge minutes, get 38, 40 minutes. Bullock's around a 0.6 fantasy point per minute guy. Finney Smith's around 0.7 in the postseason. So either of them are fine. If I prefer Finney Smith if you happen to have $1,400 left over, but I'm not going to make huge sacrifices to get to him over Bullock.
Agreed. Yeah, I think that very similar players. It seems like Dorian Finney-Smith a little bit more volatile because he does foul a good amount, and that's cut down his minutes in more than a couple of games, where Bullock has just been out there 40 minutes a game. So I think volatility can work in your favor a little bit in DFS. If Finney Smith has a higher projection, I might lean that way. But like honestly, these guys, like I think the most likely thing is they don't really wow you either way with their score being good or bad. So as far as the rest of Dallas, okay, we got Frank Ntilikina and Davis Bertans. I guess we didn't talk about Brunson. Let's talk about Brunson. So I've been surprised in the postseason that Brunson has had like as high usage and assists as he has, because usually Luka kind of dominates in those categories, and he has seen more of the ball in the postseason than during the regular season. In the regular season, Brunson's usage was 22%. In the postseason, he's averaged 28%. I think Luka missed a game or two, but that doesn't make that big a difference.
Even in the games Luka played, it's 28%.
It is. Okay. That's good to know. And then as far as assist percentage, in the regular season, he has averaged 21%. Postseason, 18%. So that's been down a little bit. So anyways, I mean, I think he's been producing. He gets a ton of minutes. Like maybe the only thing that could go wrong is Dinwiddie gets hot and gets some minutes from Brunson, but he seems like as safe a play as any. What do you think?
Yeah, that's how I see it too. And in those games, in the 10 games in the postseason he has played with Luka, the assist percentage is down to 15.5%. So it's actually dropped even a little bit more. I know it's something you've talked about and I've talked about before, that typically there's a negative correlation between your usage rate and your assist percentage. I still am surprised how high Brunson's usage rate has been, even given the slight drop off in assist percentage. But I think it probably also just speaks to the fact that in the postseason, guys that have the ball in their hands, your playmakers, your scorers, they just take on a bigger role. It's not that he's even it's not even that like teams are forcing Luka to give up the ball. He has a 40% usage rate as well. But you do have Brunson playing every single minute that Doncic isn't on the floor, and then when they do share the floor, they're just basically running the offense through the two of them. So I do think that you probably still continue to see an elevated usage rate for Brunson from the regular season, even if it's not 28%. I think it's likely that you at least see it in the mid 20s, and it's the price is still pretty expensive at 8,400. That's clearly more than it would be on the 2-game slate. It's more than it would be, during the regular season, but he's far and away the second best, scoring option on Dallas. So still gives you a very high ceiling.
Definitely. All right. And then the rest of Dallas, we're projecting Ntilikina and Davis Bertans both be in the rotation, playing between 5 and 10 minutes, which it's not very inspiring. But we have seen them have some big games, and it might just be a matter of which cheap guy like has the most fantasy points, even if it's like 10. So Ntilikina, we have. I mean, I think okay, Ntilikina is 1K on DraftKings, and we have Bertans is 2,400. So do you have any inclination to either of those guys?
I mean, if I can just pick which one I want, I would rather go Bertans because for one, I think there's less of a chance. Like I think Ntilikina is in the rotation, but I don't think that's a guarantee. I think Bertans is certainly in the rotation. And then also, Ntilikina is out there if assuming he plays, he's out there for defensive reasons. So yeah, he can run into a steal here or there, but you shouldn't be expecting him to do anything offensively. In a perfect world for Dallas, Bertans comes out there and knocks down 3-4 3-pointers and becomes like the best cheap value on the slate immediately just by doing that. So if I can get there, I would certainly rather get to Bertans, but he is $1,400 more expensive. So I think Ntilikina is fine, but I think there's a better chance at the end of the slate. I think if you were to look back on one of these guys and say like, oh, you needed this guy to win, I think it's more likely to be Bertans. Whereas Ntilikina, it could be winning lineups had Ntilikina because of what he opened up, but nothing that Ntilikina actually did.
Yeah, agreed. It's just kind of like whatever fits, and with that combination of players, it's probably going to max out the salary cap. And I think that if a lot of expensive players go off, that makes it a lot more likely like a Ntilikina is in the winning lineup, or Damian Lee is our top really cheap value on the other side. So, guys, before we get to the next game, I want to mention Odd Shopper. So we really designed Odd Shopper to so that you can get an easy sweat and find a bet that has a great shot of winning really quick in 30 seconds or less. So right now we have NBA, NHL, and MLB player props. And you can also hit up the parlay builder if you're looking for more of a boom bust kind of bet. So you can get, you can kind of get like all the straight bets you need, or you can parlay them up using our parlay builder to have some more. I like the bets where you can bet like 100 and win like 5K or something. Like, do you sports bet much or
no?
No.
Still can't because Maryland has taken their sweet time rolling out online sports betting.
Yeah, fair enough. It's like sometimes you get limited. It's like, okay, am I gonna bet $100 on this bet and win 200 if it hits? It's like that's not that exciting. It's like,
right.
But those same books let you bet 100 on a parlay and win like $1 million if you want. So it's definitely some interesting times on the sports books. Now we have some other features on OddsShopper I want to mention, which the arbitrage feature. If you want to take advantage of lines from different books that you can make a guaranteed profit, we have that tool. So you can kind of not even worry about which side hits, just get both sides. It's like you're at a house. So if you haven't checked out OddsShopper, just go to oddshopper.com. You're going to like it. All right.
One other thing to mention about Dallas, because one thing I do kind of try and think about on these slates with, single game slates with 150K to first, if I'm wrong about Dallas's rotation, like if Ntilikina doesn't play, though, I guess like the one guy on Dallas that I'm not expecting to play, but I wouldn't be shocked if he stepped on the floor, would be if they like just played Josh Green over Ntilikina. So that's one spot where, if you are not risk averse and you're just willing to take a zero there, Green's certainly going to have a hell of a lot less ownership than Frank Ntilikina.
Definitely. Yeah, especially because he's not been in the rotation the last 5 games.
Right.
So if you do have some insight that they're going to change up, like because of matchup based decisions, who's in that rotation, that could pay off huge in game one here.
And to be clear, I don't have that insight and I don't think that's the likely case. But, if I'm wrong, I would expect that Josh Green is the guy that makes me wrong.
It can pay off big. I know Rayen Rinpack, he won 100K. It was like 50 or 100K because he had Kendrick Nunn in the Miami finals. And no one else thought he was going to be in the rotation. So that can like pay off to the tune of that first prize solo. So always worth considering. I know in NFL that also has happened numerous times. Someone picks like a random player that you don't even think is going to score any fantasy points and wins big. So certainly a strategy to consider. Let's talk about Golden State. So I think the last game was kind of intriguing because they did start Kevon Looney with Otto Porter out. We kind of were talking about that already, but Otto Porter is expected to play tonight. So it seems like a likely outcome is people are going to overestimate Kevon Looney, where like whoever started at center, like Kuminga being a prime example, or Looney during the regular season, it seems like they don't always play very much. And last game was kind of an exception to the rule. What are you expecting now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm expecting Looney to start and play like 20 to 22 minutes. Like I still expect Draymond to be the closing center, so that limits how many minutes Looney can play. But again, we'll have more information there with the starting lineup coming. But for now, my assumption is Looney starts, plays 20 to 22, and then Draymond's the closing center most likely.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, as far as other bigs that could play, I saw some talk about Kuminga, like people being like, he might not even like play tonight. And I have to agree, like he got a DMP CD last game, and it was Bielitsa that got the backup run at center. So I do see Kuminga as a very risky play, and at the same time, I see Bielitsa as a super risky play where, like, I think one of them is gonna get that role, and it could be a really small one, but it could be relevant. Do you have any lead in there?
Yeah, that's to me a really interesting spot because both of them are good point per minute guys. Also, my guess is that it's Kuminga, but like you also could just get neither of them. Last game with Porter out, Bielitsa played 7.5 minutes. Kuminga didn't play at all. Obviously, Looney played 35, but let's say Porter plays 24 minutes. He could just play 24 minutes, and neither of these guys play either. Talking about Bielitsa or Kuminga. I think the most likely case is that one of them does play, 8 minutes or something like that. And they are good point per dollar guys. Like if Bielitsa plays 8 minutes at 1K, I'd rather have him than Ntilikina. It's just that I'm more confident that Ntilikina plays a minute than I am that Bielitsa does. And then similarly, Kuminga at 2,200, if he plays 8 minutes, he probably is getting around 8 fantasy points, which could easily beat Davis Bertans at that price point. So I think that they're both risky, but both have really high, potential rewards. The issue that I keep looking at though is that Kuminga is getting 19% ownership. If I were 100% certain that he was going to play like 10 to 12 minutes, I would say that that's correct or probably even too low. But when you factor in the volatility in the minutes and the fact that there is no guarantee he actually plays, that seems kind of high when Bielitsa is getting 1/3 of the ownership and could basically play the serve the same purpose.
Agreed. Yeah, like it does seem like you're flipping a lot with these cheap guys, and it's especially a gamble with Kuminga and Bielitsa because we don't even know if they're gonna make a court at all. And I think you do bring up a good point that it's possible neither of them are in the rotation, so that's especially concerning. But yeah, I don't have much confidence in those guys, but it's like if they do play, then it wouldn't be shocking to see them be that cheap guy that has the best game, which can be valuable. So a little bit torn, but I'm probably not going to play either one to be honest, just because the odds seem like they're not really in your favor here.
I think I'll probably end up playing both, but somebody had asked Archithel's had asked at the beginning of the show if I was going to play Bielitsa, and I said that right now I hadn't projected him for a single minute, but that I still might play him a little bit just in case I'm wrong. But kind of thinking about it more because the issue I keep running into is if one of them plays, I think there's a good chance they end up being optimal. So it's not. I'd feel better if we were talking about like Frank Ntilikina and I don't know, somebody like Josh Green, where I don't really care too much about that one because chances are, even if they play, they're just not going to do anything. Bielitsa and Kuminga are so good point per minute wise that if they do play, there's a pretty good chance they end up being really useful. So I'm kind of scared to just like not have them at all.
Yeah, that's a good point. I got a quick question about Fantasy Cruncher. So it looks like we might have just you can access it through the tools part of the menu. Fantasy Cruncher is our optimizer add-on. So if you haven't already tried it out, I think it's an awesome tool. Like I use it a ton. But it looks like you have to just go to our menu under tools to get there. I thought it used to be under the NBA, but I don't see it there right now. All right, so I hope that helps. Now with the cheap guy I'm kind of leaning towards is Damian Lee, but as far as ownership, there is a massive disparity between these guys where Damian Lee is 24%, Bielitsa is 7%, and Kuminga is 19%. So if those are if those hold, I think Damian Lee is my favorite. Bielitsa is probably second, and then Kuminga, just because 19% for someone who's such a gamble seems a little bit high. But I was a little bit worried Damian Lee's ownership would be higher, but we have him projected like pretty well for the price. Okay, so Damian Lee, we have a 8.6 projection, which is 4.6 points above value at that 1K price tag. So how does Damian Lee stack up for you?
Yeah, I had the exact same thought that you just mentioned with the ownership. I kind of expected to look and just see Damian Lee at like, 35% or something. And it would make it a really interesting conversation where you're saying, okay, do I want the really popular guy that averages 0.6 of a fantasy point per minute and is probably going to play 10 minutes? Or do I want the better point per minute guy at lower ownership who may not even play? But if Lee's going to continue to just be projected for 24% and the alternatives are Kuminga at 19 for, 2.2x the salary, Ntilikina at 14%, who is basically the same play as Lee, but probably, I think a little bit worse, just in the sense of greater risk that he doesn't play. Like I would be more surprised if Lee didn't play a single minute than I would Ntilikina. Right now, at least, I think the ownership on Lee is just too close to Kuminga and Ntilikina for me not to like Lee.
Agreed. Yeah, I think he's the safest bet as well. Like, do you think there is a chance? Like, he's been in the rotation the last 5 games, so I don't see anything that would change that with Gary Payton and Iguodala out. Like, do you see any possibility that he just isn't in the rotation?
I mean, the possibility would be just that, so like let's say Kevon Looney, instead of playing 20 to 22 minutes, let's say Kevon Looney plays 28 minutes, and then so you're talking about Draymond playing more minutes alongside Looney. Porter, let's say Porter plays 24 to 26. Jordan Poole plays like 34 instead of the 24 he played last game. Like if you could get a rotation like that where Damian Lee's minutes just disappear, I wouldn't say it's 100% that he plays, but I think it's a better chance he plays than it. Like I said, I'd be more surprised if Lee didn't play than I would any of these other 1K guys.
Agreed. Yeah, I think Lee's pretty safe at the ownership price. So feel good about that. Now, Draymond Green is surprisingly popular in our ownership projections at the captain position in specific, but he's the 3rd highest owned player on the slate in our ownership and 10% at captain. So that does seem like a little bit eyebrow raising to me because like I don't feel like Draymond Green is that much better a fantasy player like than some of the other options like Jordan Poole, who we already talked about that combo, and then Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins. It seems like a flip which one of those guys will be the highest scoring, and they are all somewhat similarly priced. So like if you look at our ownership projections, like how do you feel seeing Draymond Green as number 3 with 10% at captain?
Yeah, kind of surprising to me just because it's not anything against Green. I think one big thing to keep in mind, it was coming up in chat this morning. Draymond only averaged like 28 minutes per game in the last series, but that was a really weird series where there were a lot of blowouts. There was a lot of Draymond foul trouble. There was an ejection. Like in competitive games, you should be expecting mid-30s in minutes from Draymond. So I don't think you should be like selling him low just because of last series being fluky. But at the same time, 46% ownership going to Draymond for $200 more than Jordan Poole at close, at like 60% of the ownership. That's kind of strange to me. I think in competitive games, if he's playing well, Poole can get 32, 33, 34 minutes as well, potentially. And, is a higher usage guy than Draymond. Green does more in the way of playmaking, but it's kind of a weird, I'm surprised by the discrepancy there. I'm kind of surprised that Green's getting more ownership than Wiggins, given that Wiggins is $400 less expensive and they typically project pretty similarly. Brunson basically getting the same ownership as Green as well. So like, I understand why he's getting the ownership. The big one that really stands out is just that he's getting so much more than Jordan Poole. That seems weird to me.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of confidence in Jordan Poole because it seems like his minutes haven't been that good. I mean, he played 24 last game, 20 the game before. So I kind of wonder if it's just people looking back those 2 games and being like, kind of feeling meh about his minutes. Like, of course, we haven't projected higher than those, but like, do you think that is a red flag?
Not really. Last game you got the closing lineup where Looney was at center, to match up with Phoenix's size, and they wanted him out there for the rebounding, and he was playing out of his mind. Tonight, again, I don't expect Looney to close tonight. If he does, that's certainly bad for Jordan Poole, but I'm expecting that you get Draymond at center, which would open up those closing minutes for Poole. The game before that was the massive Memphis blowout where Poole played a total of 5 minutes in the second half. I think it's a case where like the minutes aren't guaranteed for Poole because, again, you could get Looney closing, you could get Otto Porter closing in Poole's place. But I do think that if he's playing well, he very easily can play his way into the closing lineup and be a good play. So I think that Draymond should be more popular than Poole probably, but just because the minutes are more stable. But I don't think there should be this big ownership gap between them.
Agreed. Thanks my filler Arc for the super chat. He says Kuminga or Looney as captain to be different or wild it out with Damian Lee. Now, one of my strategies on DraftKings is kind of going with that cheap captain and then like going with all the studs, like because if everyone has a good game but not a great one, that can easily be optimal and not that many people are on it. That kind of leads me to maybe Damian Lee at captain. Like Kevon Looney, I think is probably like significantly more likely to be the higher score between the two. He's just more expensive. Do you have any lean between those three captain, between Lee, Kuminga, and Looney?
I think I would lean Looney. I'm not sure that the savings from Looney to Kuminga or Lee end up being worth it. Like I think once you pay down for Looney at captain, you probably can pretty much do whatever you want within reason with the rest of your lineup. And then the fact that, and again, I'm assuming that Looney's going to start. This would change a little bit, if he's coming off the bench. But there is that path where, again, maybe I'm wrong and Looney closes again and you get that 28, 30-minute game from him, in which case he'd be a great play. But even if he plays like 20 minutes, like I'm expecting, I think he's cheap enough that it opens up the other stuff that you would want to do pretty easily.
Nice. That's a good one. All right. This is a good comment from Arcathelza. He says, it's ugly, but Showdown has always been ugly on DK. I like that. Let's get to the Awesemo Hall of Fame. So we have a free month giveaway that you can win by placing in the top 3 of a 5,000 person or more contest. It just has to not have too many ties. We set the limit at 3 ties. So it has to be a somewhat unique lineup here. But you have to get to awesemo.com/avatar, and then once you finish in the top 3, just tweet your win at Awesemo HOF to win a free month of Awesemo Plus, $120 value there. So it's a platinum membership. We got Jordan Lockhart. I mean, this guy is like an Awesemo Hall of Fame, like probably like I don't know what the level above Hall of Fame is. Probably like a Hall of GOAT. But Jordan Lockhart's on it. He's had like 3 Hall of Fame posts in the last week or 2, and this might be his best yet. He finished first and second in the big MLB $15 contest yesterday. Took home $70K in a $50K to first contest. So that is some serious scoring by Jordan Lockhart. Congrats. We got Christopher Pro, finished second in the quarter jukebox. Turned 25 cents into $35. Nice little bankroll boost there for Chris. Congrats. We got Des Nuts. Shout out to Eric and Greg for info on Live Before Lock. Took second place in the quarter. Turned 25 cents to 125. That is definitely why we're here, is to give you guys that info, help you turn it into profits. So congrats to Des Nuts, aka Docman. And he actually, okay, so we got that twice, it looks like. But Scotty, slight cookie pack. I don't know exactly what that means, but I like it. MLB Mini Max. He turned what I'm guessing is $1 to 500 for second place. That one is a tough contest to finish up there. There are a lot of entries, so congrats to Scotty. We got Draft Class DFS. Me and my coworker JCG Reborn combined our money and busted the 15K mini max. The tools and services was a chef's kiss. Appreciate the positive feedback there, and he won $1,500 in that mini max in the early slate in MLB. So congrats to Draft Class and his coworker JCG Reborn. Chris Nipper. He didn't have much to say about it, but he took down 70K in the $9, I'm guessing, on FanDuel, the clutch shot. So, I mean, that's got 50,000 or more people on any given night. So that's a killer takedown by Chris. Major congrats. And we got, this one was me and co-founder Tom Kennedy. So a few slates ago, he was leading the whole way first for 100K. So he just like was dominating the field. This was in the Showdown. That was probably the second game of the night. I kind of sneaked up there the last minute to finish second. So that was pretty cool to finish 1-2 with him. All right, guys, go to awesemo.com/avatar to get that avatar. Give yourself a chance at that free month. All right, so I'm kind of leading Klay Thompson. Like, I can't find anything statistically about him like not performing well in the postseason, but the ownership's low. So his usage has been 23%. His assist rate a little bit down, but the rebounding about the same as his season averages. So I just can't come to any reason why people aren't playing him as much as like a Draymond Green. He looks like a very solid play to me. What are you seeing with Klay?
I mean, the issue I run into with Klay is just that he's extremely scoring dependent, and he's not that high of a usage guy. 23.3% in the postseason. The nice thing for Klay is that within any given game, it's really volatile. Like, you can just get, what you got game 6 from Klay, and I think a little bit of last game, I don't remember. But where he just lights it up, and he can still do that. And if you see Dallas, blitz and Curry when he has the ball in his hands, that theoretically leaves Klay open for shots, and you could certainly get a big game and all of that. But the concern for me is that he's getting 40-something% ownership right now for someone that is so volatile. I like playing guys like that when they're not really popular. I like getting away from them when they are. Somebody like Draymond, I think, gives you the higher floor just because he rebounds, he gets assists. He'll get his 8 to 10 points, gives you triple double upside. So somebody like Klay, I really like in tournaments when they're low owned. I have a harder time getting to him when he's more expensive than all the other mid range guys, and he's getting basically the same ownership as Draymond and Brunson.
Yeah, I mean, projection wise, he looks like he's comparable to those guys, and I'm kind of on it. Like, we have him projected a couple of points above Draymond. I mean, Draymond's kind of weird. He doesn't really like take many shots, but he gets a lot of assists and rebounds. So, but I don't have a huge feeling there. Now, Andrew Wiggins is the last guy we haven't talked about a ton, but he got a big minutes bump last game. I suppose that could be because Otto Porter was out that one, but like solid stats this postseason, I don't see anything really jumping out. So I think a very solid play with Andrew Wiggins. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I think he's solid. The one thing that I have noticed in the postseason, the rebounding's been better for him. An 11.9% rebounding percentage. Assist percentage has been down a bit from the regular season. But yeah, he's just kind of, in a competitive game, I expect him to play 37, 38 minutes. We saw 41 last game. We saw 39 a couple of times last series as well. So yeah, he's a little bit cheaper than Draymond. He's a little bit cheaper than Poole. I'm certainly happy with whatever Wiggins I get to.
Nice. All right, we got 1 minute left. Final thoughts on tonight's slate.
Good luck. As whoever it was in chat said, showdown slates are pretty ugly. So, you try. It's kind of a balancing act between not playing the most obvious lineup that you can find, and then also not just lighting your money on fire.
Definitely. So hopefully, one of us out here can get a solo shipper tonight. Get that big prize. If not, I hope to split it with you guys. And we got a full hour and a half of content coming up for you with Ryan and Greg on Live Before Lock. So hopefully we get some starting lineups. And make sure if you haven't signed up for MGM, use that promo code NBADD. Get that free $200. That's a no-brainer. So guys, stay tuned. We got another show coming up right after this.
What's up, everybody? Ben Rasley here for Odd Chopper, bringing you my best bet of the day on this Wednesday from across the sports world. We actually have a different type of bet today, one that we haven't got into on this video before, but that does not mean that we don't have ample opportunities to cash some tickets and make some money. So I'm going to give you my favorite bet, and I'm also going to tell you in just a little bit a way to make $200 free to add to your betting bankroll by doing basically nothing, an easy way to take advantage. But let's dive into my favorite play one that I think has a very good chance to add some money to the bankroll. So we're not going to the NBA. We're not going to the NHL. We're not even going to baseball. We're going to golf. And yes, golf does not start today. So, that is true. That's not the bet of the day. But at the same time, we have to place these matchups for the Thursday morning tee times. And I am going to the PGA Championship, the second major of the year. And I'm going to the matchup market. I've talked about outrights on this very channel. You can check out that video as well. But bankroll boosters are head-to-heads, 3-balls, things like that have a much higher chance of cashing. The payout, of course, is not as much, but you don't want to just have outrights on your card. You can go a very long time without cashing a ticket. So where did I go? I scanned the board and I landed on the matchup head-to-head for the tournament. Cameron Young minus 125 against Keegan Bradley. These are two very pure ball strikers. You've got the experienced guy in Keegan versus the young gun in Cameron Young. This is a guy that's made a big splash on tour. He has missed 2 cuts, and they were at the Masters and the Players, but everything else in his year has been absolutely fantastic. His off-the-tee game is phenomenal, one of the best on tour. The putter comes and goes, but in this situation at a Southern Hills course that's really going to test you off the tee, I really like Cameron Young. Now on the other side, Keegan.
What is going on, everybody? It's the Awesemo NBA Live Before Lock show, and a special treat today. Eric wasn't able to make it, but we got Rayen to fill in. Rinpack stepping up for Eric on late notice. Very much appreciated. Also, it's nice that I get to do a show with Rayen. Rayen and I have not done a show together for a minute, and coincidentally, Rayen and I hadn't really, hang out is relative because none of us see each other in real life. We just talk over Zoom. But Rayen and I last night, we talked over Zoom for a while tonight. And then lo and behold, we're doing a show today. Rayen, what's going on?
No, excited to talk about Game 1 conference finals. Steph, Luka. I didn't expect the Mavs to get here, but here we are. Shout out to Jason Kidd. I think he's been one of the most improved coaches in the league. And it's Luka takeover season. It's been quite the ride for Luka. Not his coming out party, more or less, but he's been really good for really long. He just didn't have to face Kawhi and Paul George. But it's a Dallas versus Golden State series that I'm looking forward to. Should be nice pace compared to the other series in the East, but Game 1, let's go.
Yeah, and I have a take when it comes to Luka that I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are. And then, of course, we'll talk a little bit about DFS. We've got an hour and a half here. We're going to be talking about every single player going across FanDuel and DraftKings. But so what you said, a kind of coming out party for Luka. Everybody knows Luka's good. Like that's not been in question for a long time. But what I think this playoff run has done is I think it has now cemented him where for the next 10 years or so, whenever anybody's talking about who is the best player in the NBA, Luka will now be in that discussion for everybody for the next 10 years. And that probably wasn't necessarily the case going to the playoffs. So that's what I think this run has done for him. Do you think that's reasonable?
Yeah, that's definitely reasonable. I do think getting to that conference finals push is definitely a big accomplishment. Obviously, Jokic got there before his MVP seasons. Steph got there in his MVP season, and then it wouldn't shock me if Luka wins MVP next year. It's a very good precursor to winning MVP in years past. So I think Luka is one of the top. Is he top 5? I'm sure when everyone's healthy, you can argue with me that he falls out maybe, but Luka this season, this postseason, top 5, top 3, whatever you want to say, I'm with you there. Luka's been amazing. I'm
a little bummed out from the playoff run for this reason, and I love Luka. but I was really excited to bet him to win MVP next year. And obviously I have to know what the odds are ahead of time, but just my gut feeling was that Luka was going to be a really good MVP bet. I think this run has killed any value that ticket was going to have. Like, I think there's a pretty good chance he's going to be the betting favorite to win MVP when the lines open up. And I just don't think that would have been the case. Otherwise, I think guys like Nikola Jokic, Giannis, Embiid would have been ahead of him. But now because of this bias or recency bias that's going to be warranted from this playoff run, I think that he's going to be a prohibitive favorite to win the MVP next year. Not to where he's going to be, like minus 100 or minus 200 or anything like that. But I think we could see like plus 400 on Luka to win MVP, which those odds are too short. But at least as far as today's slate is concerned, we have tiers amongst the top end players. And I think this is why also it was good with us talking about Luka and how good he's been, because it's pretty clear to me, Luka, Steph Curry, and then a bunch of other guys, and they're segregated into tiers. But I want to ask you, when it comes to Luka, because everybody's going to be projecting him for way more fantasy points than everybody else on this slate, how high of a priority is it for you to get Luka into lineups on FanDuel and DraftKings?
It's a one-game slate. It's really hard to fade Luka Doncic. And the way Steve Kerr draws up the schemes, I mean, dating back to the 15-16 season, he will let the alpha dog just attack you. He's okay with the alpha dog putting up 40, 50 real-life points. I mean, we saw LeBron do that. That was the 15 finals. He just let LeBron get his 40 and 10 and 10, but he wouldn't let anyone else of the role players get going. And we kind of saw that with the Morant series as well. When Morant was healthy, no one else really got going besides him. And even in the Jokic series, they let Jokic eat. They just didn't want anyone else to get going. It's kind of what Steve Kerr does defensively. And just looking at how this is going to go for Luka, Luka's going to get his. If you're going to tell me he's going to average 45, 10, and 10, yeah, it's going to happen. Are they going to win this series? I don't think so. I do think this Golden State team is underappreciated. They're, I think, an elite basketball team. I think they're very good, and Luka's going to eat just because of the way it's going to go. But that's not how you're going to win the showdown or single game slate. It's about nailing the secondary or tertiary guys and how that's going to hand out. I mean, is Luka a free square? There's a salary to this, but the way things are priced out, your hands kind of forced to play him just the way he's kind of quote unquote fits. And there's enough pieces to make him fit. Maybe where you can pair things up a little differently. But going back to your original question, yeah, Luka's an elite play. I mean, MVP, megastar, captain. Yeah, I have no issues playing him there.
Yeah, I'm on the same page with you. And I tried to make some builds where it's like, hey, what if I'm contrarian and I leave Luka off? But it almost doesn't make sense from a lineup construction standpoint, because then it's like, oh, really? I'm going to have like Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green in all my lineups. And then it's like, in what scenario are the Mavericks keeping that game close? So even from a lineup construction standpoint, I find it very hard to avoid Luka. And in all the builds I have, he is my most rostered player on this slate. And I do find that to be kind of unavoidable. So if anybody's thinking about fading Luka Doncic, it's a one-game slate. Anything could happen, but I don't think that's the most likely path to winning today. I think you should be differentiating elsewhere. And then also something else, if you're playing cash games, absolutely have Luka in that lineup, regardless of what site you play on. It's necessary, particularly to get him in that MVP captain spot, whatever multiplier spot on the site you play on. Very high priority to get Luka in there in cash games. But now moving down, we talk about Steph Curry. While I still think Curry is a high priority option, there is, like you said, a salary cap to this game. And I would love to come out here and tell everybody, no, you guys should play Luka Doncic, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green in your lineups because they're going to score the most points. But I do think when it comes to Steph Curry, there's a little bit of an opportunity cost, because if I want to jam Luka, I can't really jam Curry at quite the same rate. So I prefer some of the secondary Warriors options to Curry just because of how good of a play I view Luka on this slate. Does that thought process make sense to you? Or are you kind of viewing this differently?
Yeah, no, I think that's it's definitely one way to look at it. And it's not necessarily differently. There is a lot of ways to get different, I think, on a one-game slate. It also comes down to the risk you're taking on this thing. There are things where I think things can get a little too cute, but on a one-game slate, I think anything really goes. You could convince me, and I'll be like, I'm bought in. It doesn't take much to convince me to get really that different on a one-game slate. We're dealt with the situation here just like, I think all of these guys are great. I like Golden State a lot. I think a lot of their players might be a little bit underowned, especially some of their starters. We'll see who that fifth starter is. Steve Kerr had some comments over the weekend. He does expect Looney to play in the starting lineup and go from there, but you never know. Things could have changed over the weekend. A little more tape under the belt, but it's in a situation here like this, where it's getting a little tricky here. Okay, you do play, let's say, looking on DraftKings, you play Luka at the captain spot, and you want to play Steph Curry and Klay. It's just forcing your hand to play a 1K player. And it's definitely something that's on the table because it's in terms of like a projection wise, it can work out. A lot of times on these 1 game slates, you don't need the 1K player to even put up double digit points. You would like it, but it's not necessarily going to happen. So that's why it's elevating the projected ownership of guys who are usually not playing on a 2 game slate, even guys like Lee, Frank Ntilikina, even maybe going down a little bit lower, even a Bielitsa getting some ownership as well. So it's really gross to play these type of players, but gross plays are what win tournaments. So it's kind of they kind of go hand in hand. And why? Because it just kind of fits. So I'm okay with doing it. I'm trying to get a little different there, trying to see what builds look like without them. It's a little difficult because it's getting away. You're sacrificing a lot of raw projection, but what you are gaining is in unique lineups and potential upside of winning this solo, which is really valuable, as we saw last night on both sides. Matt, lots and lots of dupes, but that's gonna happen.
Yeah, and by the way, for a second there, our guy Hobro, who I believe you're friends with, also Peter Viles, he was in first place in the DK Showdown. And if you're somebody who plays a lot of lineups and you end up tying for first, you're probably losing. And I don't remember exactly what the numbers are, but a lot of the people that came in first place last night did not profit money in the DK Showdown because the first place tie was split so many ways. And it's kind of ironic too, because in chat yesterday, there was somebody who was telling Eric and I, you should never leave money on the slate in Showdown because you need to use all the salary to win. And in a sense, that kind of was true last night for first place, but at the same time too, if you max entered and came first place, you lost money last night because you split with too many people, which that's the downside to playing lineups. They're going to be heavily duped in Showdown over time. We have a super chat here from our guy, Michael McKinney, who is playing, and he didn't specify the site, but I know it's FanDuel because Michael McKinney, I know he usually leaves us FanDuel related questions, but he's asking us for a FanDuel cash game tonight. 2-part question. First, Brunson or Klay? For me, that is Klay over Brunson pretty easily. How about for you? Cash games on that side, Klay versus Brunson.
Yeah, I really like Klay. Just going back to how I think what the scheme might look like, it might be just like just shutting down the role players and just letting Luka. I could be completely wrong. I'm just trying to put myself in Steve Kerr and what he's done over this almost 10-year run with Golden State, where if there's a role player that's cooking them, they're most likely might lose the game. But I think they have enough defensive guys to shut down Jalen Brunson. Not shut down, limit him, where I think Klay Thompson is just a better play on a single game slate.
Yeah, I have Klay projected quite a bit higher. So for cash games, I would certainly have to say Klay over Brunson. Then the second part of his question is Poole or Spencer Dinwiddie for cash. That one's going to be Poole over Dinwiddie for me. So I think Dinwiddie could end up being a little bit over-owned today. And it's kind of hard to project for this sometimes, but I brought this up on shows. A lot of times during the playoffs, like these games are nationally televised. A lot of people are watching them. And whoever played best more recently, people are just going to gravitate towards those players. And Spencer Dinwiddie, who has not had a good postseason, but he was terrific in Game 7 against the Golden State Warriors. He shot, I think it was 11 of 15 from the field. He finished with 30 real-life points in just 25 minutes. He scored over 40 fantasy points. So I think a lot of people might gravitate towards Dinwiddie, and I prefer to be underweight to the field on him just because, in general, he hasn't been that great of a fantasy producer in the playoffs in the games that Luka Doncic has been active. Jordan Poole has a much more stable role to me than Spencer Dinwiddie. So I have Poole projected higher. I prefer Poole to Dinwiddie if we're just talking straight up projections for cash games. Do you see it differently than that?
So yeah, there's a big pricing difference between these two guys. So obviously over there on FanDuel, Poole is 11.5 and Dinwiddie's 10.5. I'm willing to spend $100, $1,000 more over there to get to Poole. But on DraftKings, I'm okay with taking the savings there and like upgrading elsewhere. So there's definitely a salary to this, especially when salary's super tight today, unlike yesterday. It's going to be Jordan Poole in a raw points perspective, but if you're to play this game 100 times, it wouldn't shock me if Dinwiddie outscores Poole 30 out of the 100 times. It definitely can happen. Dinwiddie's Luka Doncic foul trouble away from getting there, a Doncic injury. And he can just get there just playing alongside Doncic, as we saw in Game 7. So it's definitely one way to definitely attacking the slate is leaving the money on the table. I would definitely use the $9 on Yahoo, the difference there, but it's fine to leave the money on the table. That's one way of getting unique on a single game slate.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, he asked for a cash game. So with that in mind, I was just like, hey, I have, like, to me, it's just generally going to be, especially for a 1 game slate, unless it's like a crazy ownership difference. And then I just want to go with, the chalkier player. But I mean, I have Poole projected higher than Dinwiddie. So that's going to be my answer when it just comes to a cash game there. And I think we're all caught up on super chats here. One thing I'm going to ask you guys a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, because we've got Rayen on Live Before Lock. This is a rare treat. We don't get this very often. So do it for Rayen. Support Rayen. Like the video, subscribe to you, only for Rayen, for no other reason. Whether you like me or hate me, whatever the purpose is, you're doing this for Rayen. Rinpack himself. You're going to like the video and subscribe. Let's move down and talk about the next tier of players. And I guess let's group Klay Thompson and Draymond Green together, because I have some Draymond takes. I think that he has a minutes upside that is being missed by a lot of people, because I don't see a lot of people projecting Draymond to play a lot of minutes, which is reasonable. Because if you look at the minutes he played in the series against Memphis, they weren't significant, but I think a lot of them come with asterisks. So game 1, 17 minutes. But we throw that out. He got ejected in that game. Who knows how many minutes he ultimately would have ended up playing. But also keep in mind, he got ejected in the first half, played 17 minutes. So he was on pace to play upper 30s minutes in that spot. The next game, he gets into foul trouble, plays 32 and a half minutes, 5 personal fouls, also had to briefly go to the locker room with an injury. The game after that, blowout. So he plays 27 minutes. The game after that, foul trouble again. He plays 33 minutes, picks up 5 personal fouls. Then the game after that, it's the game Memphis ends up beating the Warriors by 40 points. So another lopsided game. Then we get game 6, the clinching game for the Warriors. Draymond stays out of foul trouble, plays well, plays 39 minutes in that spot. I'm not going to come out here and tell anybody that Draymond's going to play 39 minutes, but I think he could play that kind of minutes. And if you're just looking at the rest of his playing time from the playoffs, you might miss that fact. So here's one thing I like with Draymond, because I think there's a betting angle here. I like the alternate rebound and assist props for him. And also the triple-double prop for him, if you just look at it straight up, is 10-1. But if you same game parlay, 10 plus points, 10 plus rebounds, 10 plus assists, you could get Draymond at plus 1650 to have a triple-double tonight, which is also something else that I bet. But that aside, how do you feel the minutes upside for Draymond looks? Because I don't know how many minutes he's going to play, like I said, but with him playing 39 minutes last game, I think the ceiling is higher than a lot of people are projecting.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I like Draymond Green a lot. He's fine to fall into the captain spot. I think he's fine to even play on the FanDuel star position, and I think he has the upside. We obviously kind of got a bad run of Draymond Green games there, and it burned me. I was pretty high on him in that Memphis series. It seemed like a good spot for him to get going, and it took him to game 6. And now in a Dallas matchup where these two teams just switched like to the death of them. And there's going to be a lot of times where Draymond's just going to have to man up and guard Luka. I expect Wiggins to be the primary defender at him at times, but that can change. I like Draymond Green. I think the upside's there. Steals and blocks for FanDuel kind of rewards him more. He's even a solid play there. Yahoo's only $24 there. He's cheaper than Jordan Poole. He's my favorite play over there on Yahoo, like kind of like salary points per dollar put together. And he has one of those sneaky upsides to be the high scoring player of the slates. We haven't seen it much of late, but he can just revert back and have that 5-stock game, backdoor triple double, definitely on the table for him. He doesn't even need a triple double to really get there for you the way he's priced, but it's just kind of gives you more salary relief in the captain spot to do so. And he's pretty awesome play. And maybe his ownership's going to come in a little bit lower than it should be. On a 1-game slate, I got to like Draymond Green a lot.
Yeah, so it looks like we're on the same page there. And for reference, Draymond Green at 12,000 on FanDuel is projected for 43% ownership overall. Over on DraftKings, he's projected for 46% ownership right now. So he is expected to be popular. But once again, I think that upside for him is really significant because of the playing time. And I do like taking some of those alternate player props that I talked about. I think that's a really good way to generate some upside. And actually, that's something I've been making a lot of money on the playoffs, in particular, some of these high variance players like Jaren Jackson Jr. betting some of his alternate props because, and obviously he's not in play now because the Memphis Grizzlies are out of the playoffs, but just using it as an example, when you get these players that have a really wide range of outcomes with the minutes, there's also really high upside in their player props, but just the standard prop I think is about fair. But the alternate lines where you're getting, significant plus money where it's like, hey, you get Draymond Green at 10 plus rebounds at plus 210 or whatever the line is, like something like that is more interesting to me and somebody who I think has a really wide range of outcomes in their playing time. So that's why of those guys in the mid tier on both DraftKings and FanDuel, I like Draymond Green the most. Like I said, Draymond Green, $8,200 on DraftKings, $12,000 on FanDuel. I think he's a little bit underpriced on both of them. I really like getting to him. As far as the other guys go in this price range, and I mentioned, Klay and Draymond being the comparison point here, but I mean, we've also got Jalen Brunson is priced similarly. Jordan Poole is priced fairly similarly on both DraftKings and FanDuel. Brunson, $8,400 on DK. Klay Thompson, $900 on DK. Over on FanDuel, we got Brunson at $12,500, Klay at $13,000. How do you feel about these guys in terms of how high of priorities they are?
So over there on DraftKings, I mean, where the 3-point bonus is rewarded, and Klay bang out 10 threes tonight and call it a night, it definitely could happen. Klay Thompson's one of those guys, I think in any given one-game slate, he has that heater in him to just light it up. He's fine to fall on a captain spot, not necessarily excited to do so. I just prefer the Golden State guys to the Dallas guys. I'm a big believer in rest versus rust type of situation. These guys are coming up Game 7 on Sunday night. Obviously, they have 2 nights of rest. Clearly, Luka's fine. He was having a breakfast beer this morning. Did you see that photo with him and Boban? And
no, I did not. But I love myself any Boban content. It's too bad he doesn't get on the court anymore.
Oh yeah, you didn't see this breakfast beer? It was a very it's an awesome photo this morning. Luka was having a beer apparently in the bay, but it's something that I think I love the fact that Golden State is coming off 4 or 5 days of rest. Last game they played was on Friday night. They've been at home, no travel. We kind of saw what happened last night in Miami. They just came out like more energized, had that extra battery left in them, and they just took over in the second half. Not to say that's going to happen tonight, but it just seems like a veteran team that's rested, it definitely bodes well for them. But going back, like guys like Klay, Wiggins, Klay and Wiggins to me, where you're getting $1,200 savings on DraftKings is significant. It's kind of more of a toss-up. I do think I'll still fall on more Klay than Wiggins, even though Klay's a little more expensive. But Wiggins seems to give you that floor of potentially high 30 minutes, and he's playing well. He's getting up peripheral stats. Not to say that's going to stick at the level he's doing so, but you got to love the minutes. High 30s minutes, tough to move away from there. I like him a lot, even on FanDuel at its price tag. I mean, that price tag is pretty solid for Wiggins, only $11,000. He comes in cheaper than Jordan Poole. I prefer Wiggins to Poole kind of straight up. I think consensus will also believe so. And just based on that, one way to get different is to play Poole over Wiggins, just because I think consensus projections will have Wiggins higher. That's just one way to get different. But Klay and Wiggins are both, I think, solid plays. I just like the Golden State side of things a lot more than Dallas. It's going to come down to like that potential guy who gets that extra rebound, that scrub like $3,000 in cheaper player, and what the rotation is going to look like for guy number 8, 9, and 10. I'm not sure what it is. Is it Ntilikina? Is it Josh Green? Those are the pairings that are going to be there. I mean, just looking at the slate outright, everyone knows Luka's a great play in terms of raw point. Steph's a great play. It's who we pair these guys with is what's going to separate you from like a game theory angle, and more or less what fits with them as well.
Yeah, and that's why also I'm going to ask you about some of these rotations and potential value plays we could find based on any changes in rotations from what we saw in previous series, because I think that is one of the key to these showdown slates when new series turns over, is that we often see different players get into the rotation. A key thing being, think about last series when the Warriors played the Memphis Grizzlies and D'Anthony Melton, who went from out of the rotation to winning tournaments a couple of times. So stuff like that, I think, could be key for us for finding some of these cheap values. We'll on some of those guys in a sec. But first, I want to answer some of the questions that we have, both a super chat that I think came in and Oh, no, not a super chat, but we do have some questions on premium Discord channel. First from Ghetto Farmer Boy, who it's nice because when I bring up his name, when Eric's on, Ryan, he feels the need to rap, which is nice. I get a reprieve from that. I don't have to listen to Eric's terrible rapping. But Ghetto Farmer Boy has an interesting strategy question. He said that he's thinking about maxing his salary in Fantasy Cruncher at 49.2. Thoughts, just because he wants to avoid chopping. So if somebody was playing lineups and trying to avoid duping just by cutting off salary, is there a certain number you would recommend?
No, I wouldn't recommend a certain number. I completely understand not playing $50,000, but 49.2, I mean, $800 when the pricing is like this, you got to be okay just like absolutely losing all your money at that point. It's just like the risk you're taking. That's a very interesting stand. I know many players on Showdown slates never play the full 50,000. I think $800 is a bit much on this slate. I mean, I'm sure you can still get great lineups with $800 left on the table. But it seems like you might be sacrificing a bit too much. It might be a bit too cute. It's not something that I'd recommend, but I'm okay giving it a shot on a one-game slate. It's not, I mean, it's a one-game slate. I can't really convince you otherwise because if you found something that looks really good and you're getting high upside lineups based on the data we have and projections, I think you can roll with it. I have no issues doing so, but I do think you might be missing out on some good lineups. For sure, you'll have less dupes. If that's your goal, go for it.
I will say this, you could have unique lineups that are only leaving $700, $600, $500 on the table. So I don't think that like 800 might be a little too aggressive. I understand what Ghetto Farmer Boy is going with, but I think you could change your max salary and move it up a little bit. I don't think you have to go all the way down to 800. We have a question here from your friend B. He's asking for a DK large field tournament. He's asking, it's a 2v2, Brunson and Wiggins, or Klay Thompson and Dorian Finney-Smith. Brunson and Wiggins or Klay Thompson and Dorian Finney-Smith.
Oh, Dorian Finney-Smith, one of those guys who plays a ton of minutes. And in this type of matchup, I don't know how well it bodes for him. He's going to be on there a ton. You're going to have to hope he knocks on a bunch of threes. I'm going to go with the Wiggins-Brunson side. Brunson, if for some reason they decide to trap Luka more and more, if Luka continues to eat, we did get word Looney is starting in the same starting lineup for the Mavs, but I think I'll go with the Brunson side of things.
All right, so we just got starting lineups that just right now came out for both teams. It's the same lineups we saw from them last series. For the Mavericks, it is Luka Doncic, Jalen Brunson, Reggie Bullock, Dorian Finney-Smith, Dwight Powell. And then for the Warriors, Curry, Thompson, Wiggins, Green, Looney. So let's start by talking about the Warriors, because the Warriors, to me, I know that you had said that Steve Kerr had mentioned that they were leaning towards Looney, but there was a number of starting lineups the Warriors could have gone with, and they've been playing their starting lineups really bizarrely in the past. I've never seen a team that's done this regularly, but for a while there, because they were mixing and matching, trying out different things after Dylan Brooks broke Gary Payton's arm, is they were starting Kuminga in the first half and Otto Porter Jr. in the second half, which I can't remember a team doing. And they did it more than once for, high leverage playoff games. So does Looney start the second half? I tend to think so. Maybe not, though. It's not a guarantee. But considering how well Looney played last game, do you think that might influence the amount of playing time he gets tonight?
I'm sure it can only help him, right? He's going to trust Looney a bit more. And he played a ton of minutes, right? He played 35 minutes. Now, does Looney play 35 minutes again? I'm not too sure about that. I'm really concerned that Luka's going to kind of target him. And Kevon Looney is an above average interior defender. I definitely think Luka's cooking his ass on the perimeter and taking him to the hole over and over again. If someone wants to tell me that Luka can't take Kevon Looney to the hole, I think that's something that Luka's going to target. I think he's the first defender he's going to target when the game starts, because I think the rest of the four guys, Steph, obviously the next guy he's going to target. But I'm a little concerned that Looney gets played off the court and they're going to have to throw Otto Porter on there just for defensive purposes. But like you said, coming off last game, played 35 minutes. It's a completely different matchup where Looney really didn't have much of a role when John Morant was on Memphis. So not to say Morant and Luka are kind of equal, but they're playing the same alpha dog role where they're going to just trying to get on, they're just going to tag Looney on an island. I think I'm sure Luka's thinking that. If I'm thinking that, I'm sitting at home. So, and Luka does this like the best of the best. So I'm a little concerned for Looney, but in terms of a pricing play, he's 4,400. Him and Otto Porter to me are kind of coin flips in this situation. I think Looney might get a little bit over owned just based on a recency bias. So I'm shying away a tad bit from Looney. Not advocating like a full-on fade because Looney can definitely play 30 minutes if he needs to, but I'm just a little bit cautious because I do think Luka's going to be cooking him on the perimeter.
I'm on the same page as you. And so right now going over some of our ownership projections, and we haven't got an updated run since the starting lineups came out, but Looney's 4,400 on DraftKings, Porter's 4,600. Right now, Looney was projected for 35% ownership, 32% ownership to Porter. Over on FanDuel, Porter is 8,500, Looney is 8,000, and they are projected for 25% ownership for Porter, 20% for Looney. Given that Looney started and he's now confirmed as a starter and he played well last game, I tend to think we're going to see Looney become a little bit more popular than Otto Porter Jr. And just because of what you just said, where it's kind of a coin flip, I'm going to lean towards preferring Otto Porter of the two of them, just under the assumption that I think there's a good chance Looney becomes more popular now. And I don't know what the lineup is going to look like, but I do agree with what you said in terms of this is a spot where Luka could hunt Looney on switches, and that could end up playing Looney off the court. And it's not like there's somebody out there that Looney has to guard. You know, last series, I thought with the Grizzlies playing Steven Adams, that kind of lent itself well to Looney playing more extended minutes in that game 6. And also Otto Porter was out in that game, which I don't think people should forget about. One of the main reasons that Looney played extended minutes was the matchup against Steven Adams, and there was no Otto Porter for the Warriors to play smaller lineups. So I'm going to lean towards Otto Porter there, but both of them are viable salary saving options on FanDuel and DraftKings. As far as the rest of the guys go, we talked briefly about Dorian Finney-Smith. We haven't mentioned Reggie Bullock yet, and I played a good amount of Reggie Bullock so far in the playoffs for a couple of main reasons. Number one, he's never popular. He wasn't popular in main slate contests. He hasn't been all that popular in showdown contests. In games that are competitive and Reggie Bullock avoids foul trouble, he plays a shit ton in the playoffs. Like, we've regularly seen him play north of 40 minutes. He didn't last game, but that was a massive blowout against the Phoenix Suns. The game before that, he played 40. Look at the minutes he played in the Utah Jazz series when most of those games were competitive. 44, 45, 45, 46, 31, but he got ejected in that game, and 44 minutes. In some of these games, particularly where if the Dallas Mavericks, if they're going to be trailing against the Golden State Warriors, they're probably going to need 3-point shooting on the court to keep up. I think this could be another spot where we just see Bullock pretty regularly play like 42, 44-minute games. So I really do like getting to Reggie Bullock here as a contrarian option in the mid-range. Is he one of the contrarian plays you could get behind?
I have a question for you. Do you have a poster of Reggie Bullock in your room?
I do not have a poster of Reggie Bullock in my room.
It looks like Jordan Klein's going to have to Amazon Prime something to the crib, but this Reggie Bullock love is quite something. I did not know you're in love with Reggie Bullock like that, but Bullock is someone who I'd rather play on DK than FanDuel just because of the 3-point bonus. I think all of his shots are going to be coming from 3 in this game, and he's going to have to play 30 plus minutes. I mean, he kind of he's playing all those Tim Hardaway Jr. minutes since Hardaway Jr. kind of got hurt. So Bullock is someone I have in moderation. Not too excited for him. I don't like him that much on FanDuel at all. He's $9,500. He's really expensive. Doesn't really get 3-point bonus. On DK, where you get the 3-point bonus, I'm okay getting there. If you want to tell me to get above the field, sure. But not that I'm super excited with a guy like Reggie Bullock. I do think we're kind of seeing him priced at $5,400. He's kind of priced on an island. Like, he's $400 more than Maxi Kleba. I like Reggie Bullock much more than I like Kleba. So $5,400, he looks like a fine play to fall on. And with the projected ownership, I believe I'm coming in just with the field. So it's not like it's a very neutral play for me in Josh Engelman's language. So I think I'll definitely take my chances with Bullock. Not that exciting of a play on captain. It's one way to get unique. He can knock down 5-6 threes, and then everyone else in your lineup needs to have a great game along with it. Seems unlikely. It just doesn't seem like a spot. If it's going to be a bunch of kick out threes from Luka, some traps, if Luka gets trapped and he's open. So I do think Reggie Bullock gets the Steph Curry defense, which might help on some if Steph Curry falls asleep off ball, which he tends to do. but that can all change so much because the way Dallas has been doing is they're switching on nonstop. So
I'm going to make one case for Reggie Bullock over on FanDuel, and this is going to be it. Of the guys priced under 10K on FanDuel, it is Otto Porter Jr., Maxi Kleber, Reggie Bullock, and Kevon Looney. Of the guys in that price range, I like Bullock the most, and all of them are kind of comparably owned. So that's kind of what has me gravitating towards Bullock a little bit, because I project him better than Porter, Kleber, and Looney.
Yeah, I think that's a fair reason. It's just it's a great minutes play. I'm just hoping that he doesn't knock down 6 threes because he's not doing that many things peripherally. I know he had some good games against Dallas, but I'm not too excited. Like, he's like a utility. And if you maybe fall on him in the pro spot on FanDuel, maybe, but it's like, I don't really like it that much. And if I'm playing him, I'm going to do it on DK.
Yeah, and I mentioned I don't have any poster of him. He's only the screensaver on my phone. Totally different thing. It's only a little bit of love for Reggie Bullock, and maybe some Photoshop naked picture of my phone. That's it though. Nothing else. No posters. None of that. Just a little bit of just a touch of love for Reggie Bullock. You know what else I love, Ryan? Free money. And here's a way that you guys can get some free money. Because right now, BetMGM, we got sports books opening up across the country. They're trying to get your business. And the way they're doing it is they're giving you free money. So if you sign up at BetMGM using the promo code, here it is, LBL Bets. It's not listed here, but it's okay because I remember it off the top of my head. Promo code LBL Bets, or if you use the link in the description box below. Here's what you do. You sign up over at BetMGM. You bet $10 on any NBA game today. And and there's only one NBA game. As long as somebody hits a 3 in that game, you get $200 for free. Now, Ryan, what are the odds that one of Steph Curry, Luka Doncic, Klay Thompson, etc., it's at least 1 3 a day? Seem fairly safe, right?
Steph Curry, Luka Doncic, and who?
Anybody in this game.
Oh, yeah. I like my chances. I'll take my chances.
Yeah, so I looked this up the other day. I think the last time there was an NBA game that didn't have a 3-pointer hit in it, it was something like 20 years ago. It's free money. Don't leave free money on the table. Ryan and I are out here. We're telling you some of the best DFS advice, and we do think it's profitable, good advice, but it's not free money, and this is free money. So sign up using that promo code LBLBets. You're going to get $200 for free from BetMGM. All right, let's talk about some of the value guys on the slate. And, here's where I think this could kind of become interesting, because I mentioned it before, something like DeAnthony Melton last series, where the series prior for the Grizzlies, he wasn't really in the rotation. He barely did anything. And then you get to game 1 of the series, he breaks out, he plays a bigger part of the rotation, ends up being a really pertinent value play at almost no ownership in game 1. If you had to pick one guy who you think has the most upside that just wasn't really a significant part of the rotation last series for any reason, who is it that you would go with for cheap in the series?
It's difficult because we've seen Ntilikina kind of take over the Josh Green role, and my inclination would be Josh Green. But Ntilikina, I don't know if you saw the stat, he held Devin Booker and Chris Paul for 3 for 40 shooting apparently when he was guarding them. So he's earned Jason Kidd's trust. By no means is Frank Ntilikina the best point per minute guy in the world. He's kind of probably one of the worst out there. But there's salary to this. Ntilikina is in play on DraftKings, and I do expect him to play at least a dozen minutes, if not maybe 15 minutes, maybe. But Ntilikina could play 15 minutes and have maybe 2 fantasy points. I don't know if 2 fantasy points is getting the job done. And the guy who might get more minutes alongside him with him is maybe Josh Green. So Josh Green's the guy in Dallas. Now on the Golden State side of things, we saw Kuminga didn't play last game. And I think we might see more Bjelica this series. And by more, maybe just like a few more minutes than Kuminga. Bjelica kind of passed Kuminga in game 6, but by no means is that permanent. So Bjelica is the other guy you could take a flyer on. But man, you're hoping for these guys to get you 5-6 fantasy points and Luka to have an explosion game. So, because more likely than not, you're playing Luka captain or Steph Curry captain to make that happen. Not even like some lineups you are going to fall on like other guys to fit Luka in because of how strong of a play Luka is. Yeah, that's what I think. Do you agree? Or do you see someone else?
I like if you're asking me to pick somebody for 1K, the answer is Ntilikina, just because we saw his minutes start to trend up towards the end of last series. And, he's a defensive specialist. You're not going to get a lot of offense from Ntilikina. You're not going to get 3-point shooting. You're just going to get him to go out there and play defense. And I kind of think he's a good guy to bring off the bench and play, 14 minutes or so chasing Steph Curry around, because you don't want Luka to be, burning himself out on defense, chasing around Steph Curry. I think that Ntilikina is somebody who could come off the bench and just play that role for, 12 to 16 minutes or something like that. And, there's a lot of stars we want to pay up for on this slate, and Ntilikina, 17% projected ownership on DraftKings. I don't really think we need to consider him on FanDuel at 7K. I know he's projected for very low ownership, and a lot of times he could get there with defensive. 2 games ago, he had 5 stocks. I think it was 4 steals and a block or something like that, but he's a little more of a DK play to me than FanDuel just because of the 1K salary. But here's somebody else that I want to ask you about, because I do have some interest, and we just got a question about it in our premium Discord channel as well. Mr. Moneybags said, with Looney starting, what are your thoughts on Dwight Powell? And I have no clue what to expect from Dwight Powell in this series at all. But here's the positive. He's starting for the Mavericks, and he did play a somewhat significant role for them in the regular season. He is a starter. He's cheap, and he's getting no ownership today. At 7K on FanDuel, he's projected for 12% ownership. At 3,400 on DK, he's projected for 12% ownership. So what are his minutes going to look like? I can't confidently tell you we're going to get 20 plus from Dwight Powell, but that's pretty regularly what he did in the regular season. And with Looney on the other side of him, I don't think it's an awful matchup. And then looking at some of the times that they played against the Warriors in the regular season, the last time they played the Warriors in the regular season, we got 33 minutes out of Dwight Powell. The game before was only 18 minutes, but he also got into foul trouble. The game before that was a game that was before he was a starter for them. So this is another guy with a wide range of outcomes, but since he's a starter, and I don't think the matchup is terrible for him on paper, I wouldn't be shocked if we get 20 plus minutes out of Dwight Powell, and that's probably enough for him to be a viable value option. And this is a very, very low ownership for somebody who's cheap and starting. So I like Dwight Powell as a contrarian value play. Could you get behind that at all?
Yeah, I think I can, because it's a 1-game slate, and at the end of this night, 12 points from Dwight Powell might be enough just to get you there. And how that happens is in the utility spot. How that happens is all like the 1K guys kind of suck, and you find the right combo with him. Dwight Powell is someone can play really well at Lincoln Spurs. He needs to shoot very effectively from the field. Maxi Kleber, the series doesn't. I think the Sun series played much better for him than this series, but he's just playing much more minutes than Powell. So I think the split's like 28, maybe it's like 30-18 split, 18 going to Powell and 30 going to Kleber, but that could be easily 24-24. We just haven't seen it yet. And Powell is fine to fall in. It's a 1-game slate. I don't mind it. He could get you, he can have that effective putback lob catch. He can get you 10 fantasy points in his first stint. And we've seen it time and time again, which is enough for a 1-game slate. So definitely don't mind if you're building multiple lineups, having some Dwight Powell. And you brought up all the great reasons to play him. Yeah.
And once again, it's not a vote of confidence, but that's kind of part of the reason I like him, is because I have no clue what we're going to get out of him, but I know what the possibilities are. Nobody in the field is playing him right now per our ownership projections on FanDuel or DraftKings. He's cheap on both sites, so it makes sense to me. Oh, wait, shout out to Jordan Lockhart, because there is a new feature on YouTube, or at least new feature to me. If it's existed before, I wasn't aware of it, but you can now gift people memberships to a YouTube channel. And Jordan Lockhart is out here just like Santa Claus throwing these things around. So Jordan Lockhart gifted 15 Awesemo memberships. So first of all, Jordan Lockhart, we appreciate you. You're the man. And also congrats to everybody who just got them. I'm seeing all the things coming across here of people who are gifted memberships by Jordan Lockhart. So everybody, welcome to the Awesemo YouTube channel family here. And you get some perks of being a member. So that's all really cool. In terms of other value plays, is there anything off the board that we have not yet talked about that you think warrants consideration?
Off the board, I mean, if you think blowouts definitely happen on a 1-game slate, and Dallas has been in some of them we've seen so far in this series. So that can certainly happen. Keep in mind of that. Another thing that could definitely happen is injuries. If you have Not to ever predict an injury narrative, but that could definitely happen in a one-game slate. Correlation is something that I haven't looked into on one-game slates. Like, how often do you play a Dinwiddie, Brunson, and Luka lineup with those three? I'm not so sure. Golden State's a little different, and they're kind of just slow correlated to the way they play, so it's a little different to look at. It's something needs to be considered a bit more in these one-game slates. In terms of getting unique, I mean, drawing out a game script. If you're building one lineup, draw out a game script in your head and seeing what happens. That's kind of getting a little off the wall in terms of different game scripts, which have worked out for me, building little batches. We've seen that happen a lot in NFL, so I think that's one way to do it.
All right, let's jump on over to sports betting. We got 15 minutes to go here, so I want to shout out OddsShopper. If you guys haven't checked that OddsShopper yet, this is the easiest way to place bets on pretty much any sport out there right now. We've got NBA bets, MLB, PGA. It takes seconds. You just go over to OddsShopper, you look it up. We've got projected win rates, projected ROIs, and that's a really good way to just find some of the best bets you could find, especially from a prop betting angle. So I want to go over there and check out some of those. We give people some sports betting action they could get on. Maybe somebody just signed up at BetMGM using our promo code LBLBets. Maybe they're walking into $200 for free. We find some other stuff that people could bet on. So here are some things that stand out over at OddsShopper. Dorian Finney-Smith over assists, that's plus money. Maxi Kleber over 4.5 rebounds. It's hard for me to know with Kleber just because I don't know what the minutes are going to look like. But for you, what is one bet you look at that stands out on OddsShopper that you think is a good play tonight, Ryan?
One bet that stands out on OddsShopper, I think you nailed a good one. And one thing I was trying to as I pull up OddsShopper, but one thing I was curious on, something about you probably know because you're the king of futures, but do you know if you can bet on like the Western Conference, Eastern Conference Finals MVP trophies that they're handing? You can?
Yes. I'll pull up the odds for you right now while we're doing it.
I will take the over on 2.5 Dwight Powell rebounds. I think that's something that I'm willing to take my chances on. The over on 2.5 Dwight Powell rebounds. That could be done in the first possession.
All right, let me pull up. I'm pulling up the MVP odds right now. Is there anybody in particular you want me to look up?
Yeah, I'm just curious what the Golden State sides look like.
Yeah, so I remember I was looking at this earlier, and I'm pretty sure that Steph Curry minus 105 to win Western Conference Finals MVP.
And what's the series line?
The series line is Warriors minus 230.
So like going back to like the NFL Super Bowl, right? That's one way, not to say like, it's a different way to bet futures in terms of like a series pricing. I do like the minus 105 for Steph Curry in this series. Now, would I be a little concerned if I see game one, they just trap Steph Curry like they did to Booker? I think Steve Kerr is going to make enough adjustments where that won't happen as much. They can easily get rid of that, because if you're trapping Steph Curry, everyone else on that team outside of Draymond Green, if they're rolling out Otto Porter in that 5, can hit the 3, and you're going to get burned really fast, really quick. So it's an interesting way to look at it. But going back to it, yeah, Dwight Powell over 2.5 rebounds seems the one that I like the most.
By the way, shout out to, now we just got people gifting these memberships left and right in the YouTube channel. The entire YouTube channel, just people getting gifted memberships. So shout out once again to Jordan Lockhart, who's still giving those away. And another guy, Arturo Valdez, he has also gifted some memberships to the YouTube channel. We love all you guys. We appreciate you. Thank you very much. That's all very kind of you. Very cool to see. We also have a super chat here from Seifdin. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. He's saying, am I crazy going all in on Jonathan Kuminga? Yes.
Crazy in the fact that you're just okay with him not playing and you're willing to lose whatever your allocated role is for the day. That's crazy. If I'm building one lineup, Kuminga doesn't fall in there. But so I do think it's a little too cute. I don't think you need to go all in on Kuminga. By the way, it's Christmas in May. I'm just looking at all these chats being gifted. It is Christmas in May. We need Jordan Klein to wear a Santa Claus hat and come on stream.
Yeah. What holiday is it? Let's see. Let me look at the holiday calendar. It's holiday somewhere, I'm sure. You know, even if it's like one of those weird Canadian holidays where it's like, hey, it's Park Day. You know, they're always celebrating something in Canada. Let me see. What is the Canada holiday calendar, because this is what we're celebrating. We're giving away presents for, what's today? Today's the 18th. What is the, there's no holidays. There's no holidays right now in Canada. Damn, I thought there's always something in Canada.
That's disappointing.
Yeah. All right. Let's see if there's whatever it is that Jordan Lockhart is celebrating. We love it. We appreciate you. And
he's celebrating his wins.
That's true. Also, every day is a holiday for Jordan Lockhart, because Jordan Lockhart goes on these crazy runs where it'll be like all of a sudden I'll get messaged on Twitter one day like, "Hey, I had this win," and it'll pop up for like 75,000 from Jordan Lockhart. It never comes in ones though. There's one the next day.
He's
then the day after.
Allergic to losing on these runs.
Yeah.
These are.
He goes on these runs for like 2 weeks at a time where he only wins like tens of thousands of dollars at a time. So Jordan Lockhart spreading the love, spreading some cheer. We appreciate you. Also, we have a free premium bet that's going to be posted on our Awesemo bets handle. I have to check to see what that bet is going to be. Usually wait until after lock, but here's the issue with that. After lock, the game is going to already have started. So I'm going to try to get out ahead of that. Ryan, do you know what the bet is today? If not, I'm going to check.
Yes, I do know what the bet is today. And it's a gutsy bet from our betting team. And I'm going to take my chances with this bet. It is. Do you want to guess which player revolves around?
Oh, you know what? I know what it is, because now that you brought it up, it's the Luka Doncic, correct?
Yeah. Thanks for ruining it. But I was going to say our cover boy, Luka Doncic, the under of 33.5 points on DraftKings Sportsbook. That's right.
Yeah. But by the way, I have Luka projected right around 30 points, and it's just a really large number. It's not to say Luka isn't a good play in DFS or anything, because he clearly is, but it's a really lofty number against a team that's a really good defense. The Golden State Warriors were number 1 in the league in defensive efficiency this year. And that was despite Draymond Green missing roughly half the season. So this is a very, very good defense. And once again, Luka could have a great game. Luka could score 33 points and be the top scoring fantasy player, but like 15 points on this slate, and would still hit the under on his points prop. So I get that behind that as well. Looking over at Odd Shopper, it's something that we've projected for, what was it, a 15% ROI, a 14% ROI, the under 33.5. So I agree. I think there's good value to be had there on Luka Doncic. We had a question coming in to our premium Slack channel, I always get Slack into this. I'm like, I understand my dad now, where I used to make fun of him when I was younger for calling things the wrong things, where it's like, he calls the Baltimore, he calls the Indianapolis Colts, the Baltimore Colts and stuff like that. But now that's just becoming me, where it's like Slack, Discord, what's the difference? It's all the same. Email, text message, who knows the difference? But question here from Iron Maiden 2. For a DK GPP, he wants to know Looney and Brunson or Dre and Porter. He is playing Andrew Wiggins at captain today. So Looney and Brunson or Dre and Porter. I prefer Dre and Porter personally. How about you?
I agree. I prefer Dre and Porter, but I have no issues playing the other pairing. I just prefer Dre and Porter. And it's probably going to be pretty close if I doing the projections in my head. It's going to be really close. But yeah, Dre and Porter for me.
All right. By the way, lots of more memberships being gifted. We appreciate that immensely.
Can they pick, or does YouTube hit the Rayen function and YouTube gives out random?
The viewer engages in chats and stuff like that, the higher likelihood they have of getting picked.
Was your mic on, Jordan? Were the people able to hear you when you said that? Okay. Cool. Always good. But so many surprises today. We're getting gifts thrown around. I get Ryan on the show. Jordan makes an appearance. These are all my favorite things happening at once. So Ryan, let's head into lock by talking about this. And by the way, guys, Ryan and I aren't going anywhere for the 30 minutes after lock. Him and I are going to be sitting around. We're going to be sweating the game. We'll be reacting to what happens and maybe some live betting, whatever. We'll be hanging around for another 30 minutes. So like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Don't go anywhere when we hit lock. But I think there's going to be no debate from either of us that if you could play anybody captain, the answer is going to be Luka Doncic. But when it comes to Luka, I want to ask you, relative to his current projected ownership, which is would be easier if I didn't accidentally close the tab. So he is the most popular captain play on DraftKings, most popular MVP on FanDuel, projected for, great, I'm looking at the ownership from different thing now. So over on DraftKings, big build up here as I stall for time to load my screen. Here we go. Luka, project for 32% ownership in the captain spot on DraftKings. The MVP spot on FanDuel is projected for 55% ownership. If you're playing large field tournaments, are those marks you want to be over or underweight to the field on?
55 on FanDuel, you said?
Mm-hmm.
I personally think he might come in a bit even higher than that.
Yeah.
I have a little bit higher than that. If I was building one lineup, I think Luka's my MVP, and I try to get different elsewhere. I think that's the safest and it's obviously the highest upside. On DraftKings, I'm willing to go under on the Luka captain ownership over there, just because of I do think the risk reward proposition of large field tournaments, of potentially getting a little different on lineup builds. But I have no issues if you want to play Luka in your captain. He's a phenomenal captain play. He comes in at a utility price at 13.4. He should be honestly maybe 15, 16K the way he's been playing. But he's fine to get above the field. And I personally think I'll be with the field, maybe a tad under. But that's just I'm willing to take that risk on. Over there in FanDuel, I'll be above that field. It's just the way the game is. There's only 5 positions there to fill out. It's kind of an easier puzzle to fill out over there on FanDuel. And on Yahoo, I think he's fine to just play at Megastar. I think he's pretty elite.
So I'm going to ask you about your other preferred captain / MVP choice. But first, the super chat from You Don't Know JD. You're right. I don't know JD. I have no clue who JD is. Are you JD? Is somebody else JD? I don't know. That's why your name is what it is. Looney, Otto, Powell, last man in, FanDuel, single entry. Looney, Otto Porter, Dwight Powell. Who is your favorite for an LMI, as Jordan has told me that is the cool phrase?
I think over there on FanDuel, you're going to be leaving a lot of money going to Powell. I think I'll take my chances with Otto Porter. Otto Porter has shown an upside, and there is a chance Otto Porter could close this game. There's a slim chance that could happen, but definitely possible. And Otto Porter, his minutes go from anywhere from 18 to 30. And if Otto Porter is getting 30 minutes, give me some Otto Porter at that $8,500 price tag. Dwight Powell, I'll be blown away if he plays more than 30 minutes. Yeah. And I feel like he'll need something around there. And Looney, yeah, if I were to rank him, I'd go Otto, Looney, Powell.
Yeah, so for Powell, I like him for large field tournaments as a contrarian option. If you're just talking a FanDuel single entry, I wouldn't be leaving like thousands of dollars on the table to get to Dwight Powell. So that's a different circumstance. Specifically for FanDuel single entry, I agree with you. I prefer Otto Porter there of that group. Now I want to ask you, because you said that Luka Doncic, somebody he's going to be massively popular in the captain, the MVP spot. So if you're getting contrarian and you're picking somebody off the board as your captain play on DraftKings, MVP on FanDuel, who is it that you're getting on DK and FanDuel in the multiplier spot as the contrarian option?
It's got to be Steph Curry, right? I mean, it's like similar upsides, 3-point bonus. I think he's a fine place to go to. Any one of the Warriors' big 3 are fine to do captain over there on DraftKings. FanDuel, start to shy away with Klay Thompson MVP. If you fall on a couple, sure. Just know that he's got to need to light it up real points wise and get an outlier steals and block scheme, which he certainly can. And but it seems unlikely. Well, Draymond Green, where I think minutes can be higher 30s. It's not been the average, but steals and blocks definitely always on the table for him. Double, triple bonus captain DK can work out. So yeah, I think any one of the Warriors' big 3. I don't mind Wiggins either. I think he's fine. It's just that I don't think he has a ceiling like Draymond or Klay. I think it's a minutes foundational floor, gives you a nice floor lineup, and I think you can rock. If like there's no one who has a ceiling game, I think Wiggins can be that optimal captain type of build.
Yeah. So when it comes to Steph, this might seem controversial, but it kind of isn't. Steph's upside is the same as Luka's. The difference is Luka hits his ceiling far more frequently than Steph does. But, we see these Steph games. They probably happen, I don't know, once a month or so, where all of a sudden you get from Steph, once a month might be a little bit too wide of a time frame, but I'll say once every 3 weeks from Steph Curry, where it's like, he has a lot of games where it's like 45 fantasy points, 48, 40s, whatever. And then all of a sudden you get the game. Oh, look, Steph Curry went, 9 of 13 from 3 and scored 70 fantasy points. And that's the same type of ceiling you get from Luka. It just doesn't happen as frequently for Steph Curry. So if you want to differentiate a little bit in the MVP spot on FanDuel, the captain spot on DraftKings, I agree with you. I think that is a reasonable way to go. So we have gotten to lock now. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Don't go anywhere. Ryan and I are sticking around for the next 30 minutes. But first, here's the most important question I like to ask when we get to lock. Ryan, what time is this game going to tip off?
TNT game, 9:07.
One thing that's nice about the TNT games is compared to ESPN milks the shit out of their pregame. So there are times when Eric and I are doing the post-lock show, and we'll sit here for 20 minutes waiting for the game to tip off. It's like, well, we've got nothing to react to, nothing to talk about. TNT is usually a little bit easier. I agree with you. 9:07. Let's give the people an over-under. I want to hear in the chat, will the game start before or after 9:07 p.m. Eastern time? Let us know. Let's see what people start to say. I'm going to take the under. I'm feeling optimistic today. I think we get a quick start in the Dallas Golden State game. 9:07 is the over-under. Actually, Jordan, can you put a poll up? Just ask over-under when the start time is going to be.
As Jordan puts this up, who do you think wins this series?
So I have not bet this series. If I had to bet the series, I would bet the Mavericks side, not because I think they're more likely to win, just because I think they're a little bit undervalued of a team. And I think the Warriors are a little bit overvalued in the market. Like the Warriors have been prohibitive favorites to win the NBA finals for a while now. And I don't really agree with that. Right now, they're plus 135 to win the finals. If the Warriors were to play the Celtics straight up in a series, I would pick the Celtics. And I understand that might be a little bit of bias on my part because I have Celtics futures, but I think the Celtics are a better team than Golden State. I think their defense is ridiculously good. So I do think in general, the futures market overvalues Golden State a little bit. So if I had to bet a side, it would be the Mavericks, but outright, if it's just which team wins, I think the Warriors are more likely to win.
Yeah, I'm very bullish on this Warriors team. I think they're very, very good. And I do think like the odds market is like, I think they should be even more favored than they are personally, but I mean, I could be wrong, maybe a little bit biased. I think they're really good. Steve Kerr just like simply gets to the finals whenever he's in the playoffs. So I do think, as ridiculous as it sounds, I do think a sweep is on the table with this Warriors team. Luka's really good to win a game on his own, but that's honestly about it. I mean, I'd be pretty shocked. I mean, the Memphis series was weird. And after John Morant got hurt, I don't think they had enough time to game plan, reset, study the tape as much. But it's just that Memphis was a well-oiled machine without Ja as is. It's a little different against Luka. I think they should be able to figure things out pretty easily. I would like to see a Warriors-Celtics finals, but who knows what the health looks like of Horford and Marcus Smart. They're going to need them both for Warriors. I don't think they need Horford. They're going to need Marcus Smart.
Yes, I agree with that because we saw this. And by the way, because important question for people voting, Ghetto Farmer wants to know, where's the juice on the over-under 907? Even money on both, well, minus 110 on both sides. There's no juice. We're looking to equal on both sides. But did the game tip already? That's what somebody said. Let me pull it up if that's the case. So I do, and by the way, Marcus Smart was upgraded to probable for tomorrow. I like the Celtics outright as a bet a lot today. And here's even if you're unsure of which side to take, here's some logic. The game yesterday closed at a line of 5 points. The line for tomorrow is 4.5. Without any other information, Marcus Smart is worth more than half a point to the spread. So that in itself, with Marcus Smart coming back, I think is reason to like the Boston Celtics tomorrow. Yes, we did get the game to tip off.
Wow,
so we got the under. That was my pick. I went with the under. Now we're going to get people voting after the fact, taking the under probably. And that's pretty split. 55 on the under.
I thought it was a good line. That was a good line.
Yep, it was a very good line. Very good line. We got even action on both sides. That's all you could ask for as a bookmaker. By the way, game started and we got a 3. The game is buffering on my computer right now. Who hit the first bucket? Because as we know, whatever happens in the first 3 minutes of the game determines the entirety of any showdown slate. So if you do not have Andrew Wiggins in your lineup, log off and go home because he hit the first bucket. Locked to be optimal for that reason. Jalen Brunson comes back with a bucket at the other end. So I'm going to follow up with what you said before. I agree with you. I think that Marcus Smart is more important to the series for Al Horford for a couple of reasons. Number one, Robert Williams is back for the Celtics, so they have that depth in the front court. Number 2 also, Jimmy Butler destroyed Peyton Pritchard in the fourth quarter of that game. Jimmy Butler got a switch onto Peyton Pritchard every single opportunity he could in the fourth quarter, and he destroyed him. The reason Jimmy Butler went off in the second half was a lot because the Celtics were playing Peyton Pritchard extended minutes, and Jimmy Butler was hunting him on defense. That is not going to be able to happen as easily if Marcus Smart is out there. So Marcus Smart coming back today, I think, is a massive upgrade for the Boston Celtics over Peyton Pritchard being in the lineup. Whereas Al Horford, I think he was really important in that Bucks series. I was talking to one of my friends about this earlier because the Bucks series, Al Horford was pivotal in guarding Giannis Antetokounmpo. Al Horford's not going to really play that much of a role guarding Jimmy Butler. Marcus Smart will. So Smart being back, I think that's an undervalued addition, not really addition, but return for the Boston Celtics tomorrow. So I think Smart is going to be a very big factor in the series. How do you like the Celtics odds to get back into it? By the way, 7-5, the Mavericks leading early.
I don't know. Eric Spoelstra, yet again, very underrated as a head coach. People don't give him enough credit. It's definitely, it was impressive to see they just do that on the backs of Jimmy Butler. Obviously, Jimmy Butler has done that over and over again. But it's concerning that it only took Jimmy Butler to have a really good game. And Gabe Vincent was probably the outlier role player game, because usually when you win a playoff game, your star player maybe has a good game or a bunch of role players have great games. And it was probably Gabe Vincent was the role player game there. There's going to be games where Bam Adebayo is the best player on the court, and he has that in him. Tatum did his thing. It's not like Tatum was like asleep or anything. Jaylen Brown was awfully disappointing. They need Brown to play much better. I do think this series has like 6 or 7 written all over it. I'd be concerned if Jimmy Butler drops another 40 piece again tomorrow. That'd be concerning for a Celtics fan.
So, I mean, the other thing too is home court plays such a big role in these playoff series. And I kind of think it's undervalued by the public a lot, where if the Heat go up 2-0 tomorrow, people be like, oh my God, the Celtics, like, look at they're missing Al Horford. They're done in this series. And then you know what's going to happen? The series is going to switch to Boston, and the Celtics are going to be 6-point favorites or something like that in the home games. And then the Celtics are probably going to win 2 games in a row. And people will be like, oh my God, the Heat are falling apart. So just these crazy reactions when the series switches to home court. Even if the Celtics lose tomorrow, I'm not too concerned. I would like for hopefully Marcus Smart looks healthy tomorrow. Hopefully Al Horford comes back soon, pending him getting out of protocols.
Steph Curry missed a free throw. What is going on with Steph Curry?
What is he shooting from the line in the playoffs? By the way,
not who 90%. I'll tell you that.
You know who would disagree with you that Jaylen Brown was disappointing yesterday? Pete Viles, because I'm sure he would have liked Jaylen Brown to be more disappointing.
Yeah, no, Pete was on his way. I mean, those are the type of lineups when solo. And
that was
definitely a great way to approach showdown sites.
If I remember correctly, he needed Gabe Vincent to outscore Jaylen Brown, which was the case for most of the game until that late fourth quarter run where the game was kind of out of hand at that point. The Celtics were hanging in, and Jaylen Brown just hit a bunch of 3-pointers that did not impact the outcome of the game, but were very difficult shots, and they certainly impacted the outcome of Showdown contest. I'm going to pull up Steph Curry's shooting.
Steph missed both free throws.
What would you guess Steph Curry shooting from the free throw line and from 3 in the playoffs?
He hasn't shot that well from 3. I'll go 34% and then 77% from free throws. It's like Steph Curry doesn't miss from the free throw line, but
he has lately. All right, Let's see what it is. Pulling it up. Steph Curry playoff stats. Steph Curry is shooting 36% from 3. It's funny, like an abysmal Steph Curry shooting performance is 36% from 3. Now, with that said, that is well below his career average, but free throw line, 82% in the playoffs.
It definitely went down after these two. So
that's true. So
these 2 misses.
Actually, let's see if I could. What are the totals? All right. So it is now, let me break out the old phone calculator. We're going to do some division here and figure out what his new free throw shooting percentage is. So Steph Curry is now shooting 79% from the free throw line. Steph Curry sub 80%. That's wild.
Yeah, it's definitely very not concerning. He'll figure it out. He's really good, but it's uncharacteristically weird.
Yeah, You know, he didn't shoot as well in the regular season either as we would have expected. Not the free throws were fine for Steph Curry in the regular season, but I believe this was the worst he's ever shot from three in the regular season. Let me see if I don't want to be throwing out false information here, but yeah, Steph Curry shot 38% from three. And I'm going to throw the season where he broke his wrist. I'm throwing that out because that was, really limited. We're looking at, something like 43 3-point attempts. Steph Curry has never shot below 41% from three in his entire career until this year. And this year he shot 38% from three. Do you find that to be fluky, or do you think that's a sign of a little bit of decline from Steph Curry now at 34 years old?
No, I do think it's a little fluky. I do think it's a little fluky because a lot of the season he's playing without Draymond and Klay Thompson, and a lot of those career rates were elevated because he played with Draymond and Klay Thompson. So I do think those will tend to positively regress, I think.
By the way, we have a strong start going. In the first 4 minutes of the game, Looney, 4 points, 3 boards.
Wow.
Looney off to a strong start. Looks like just Karen is Looney just puts up Ben Wallace numbers from now on. Is that the deal?
Ben Wallace did not score points. I'll tell you that. Ben Wallace did not score points.
I mean, Looney did in the last game. Looney put up an all-time Ben Wallace line in the last game he played against the Grizzlies. 4 points,
Ben
22
Wallace
rebounds.
Is, one of the Piston greats, one of my childhood, I guess, basketball players growing up, because I grew up a Pistons fan. No longer that diehard of a Pistons fan, but Ben Wallace was legendary.
A lot of people would look at my old high school yearbook photo and say that's a Ben Wallace lookalike with the hair. I think a lot of people wouldn't be able to tell the difference. They'd look at me and be like, that's Ben Wallace right there. All right, so what do we got on the updated stats? Draymond Green just pulled down a rebound. Warriors are leading 16-13. And who are the most important plays so far? Something of note.
It's Looney for sure. It's Looney's 9 something point.
Yeah, Looney with 6 points and 3 boards. That's certainly going to be key. It looks like Looney is the value play du jour on this, and it's hard to imagine he's going to come off the court playing this well. But who is coming off the court? Dwight Powell, a guy I like taking a chance on. Looks like that's going less well. 4 minutes, he pulls down 1 board, quickly gets yanked for Maxi Kleber off the bench. Although with that said, Kleber's played 1 minute and picked up a personal foul, so something to monitor. In terms of personal fouls, 1 for Powell, 1 for Kleber. And for the Warriors, Andrew Wiggins, the only player who has picked up a foul to this point. In terms of overall fantasy production, Looney leading the way for the Warriors with 6 points and 3 boards. We got Steph Curry, 2-2-2. Draymond off to a good start with 2-2-1. Dallas, we've got Luke off to a good start with 8-2-1. So as of right now, here are the guys that I think you would feel best about having in your lineup. Luka, Looney, Draymond Green, and Wiggins. Seem about right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that seems like one way to look at it. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. I'm trying to see if anyone has any steals or blocks. Yeah, no one has any stocks yet, so that'll change things quickly. But yeah, Looney definitely looks pretty good at this moment. Very interesting to see how that transpires over the slate. I'll be concerned if Looney's the highest scoring player on the slate.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Looney in the MVP on FanDuel.
I mean, people will have that lineup, and I'll be like, fuck, all this work for Looney to score the most points in this game.
Let me see. What is his? I'm going to pull up. Nah. You got to mix it.
I do think one thing that Jordan could pull up is, for those who aren't members yet, we do have that promo, 50% off your first month. Jordan, if you could just show like the golf tools real quick, pull up some of the golf tools, preview the golf tools. There's a Million Maker tomorrow, and winning $1 million is something that a lot of people have done playing DFS. And I recommend using our tools to do so. And definitely for golf, you can use these to help you win $1 million, which is a lot of money.
So I'm aware that $1 million is a good amount of money. I've never won $1 million playing DFS, but I have used our tools this year. I'm trying to wade into the golf. I've never really played PGA DFS, but I've been using primarily our Boom Bust tool to build golf lineups this year. And I've had some success. I've been profitable at golf, and I don't know shit about golf DFS. I just use our our leverage tool and try to find who the guys who are over under owned are and try to prioritize that when building lineups. And it's worked for me in terms of not knowing anything. Do you, Ryan, know anything about PGA DFS?
I do know that Tiger Woods and Jordan Spieth and Rory McIlroy are in the same pairing tomorrow. If you haven't heard of it.
Ooh, I had no clue. Actually, let me pull up.
There are a lot of big wind factors playing into tomorrow. Some injury concerns with Deki Matsuyama. I just know very brief. Whatever shows up on Twitter is what I'll read, but I don't know the intricacies of golf. I cannot hit a golf ball to save my life. So Eric Lindquist, on the other hand, knows his golf inside and out. So does Ben. So does Jason. All those guys know a ton about golf.
So I played golf in high school, and I used to be good. I'm retired now because I have other interests. My dad wants me to start playing again so I can hang out with him. We'll see. But yeah, I was close to a scratch golfer when I was in high school. Not anymore, though. Back in the days when I had the big afro. When you see the pictures of me that get photoshopped by Tyler Xander in the background, I was good at golf back then.
Yeah,
maybe still now. I don't know.
I just wanted to give a shout out to our golf product because they do run milli makers for those majors. And I believe the U.S. Open would be the next major after this, right, Jordan? Yep. Yeah, Jordan would know for sure. I mean, you got a 50-50 shot. It's either the Open or it's the PGA Championship. Correct.
Or is the PGA Championship tomorrow? Is it the U.S. Open or the PGA Championship?
Tomorrow is the PGA Championship in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Let's see. Are there still spots available in that?
There are spots available. There
are still spots available. The Millie Maker still has 12,000 entries available. It's filled 130,000 out of 142. Are you playing lineups?
I don't play much golf, but when I do play them, it's for a golf major, and I am tempted to fire away at this Millie Maker because it's going to be fun. Just because when you have a chance, greater than a 0% chance to win $1 million, you gotta have some fun with it.
We've got here. We'll shout out right here. We've got Best Ball Moderate in the YouTube chat is saying Taylor Gooch is going to win tomorrow. Local guy. So Taylor Gooch, first of all, hilarious name. But I'm going to say if Taylor Gooch actually wins, Best Ball Moderate, I'm going to remember your name. You get, if he happens to win, we'll give you a free week of our premium betting.
If he happens to win, Greg will write Gooch on his forehead and do a show all the Monday live before lock.
I'll do a show with my pants pulled down, bent over backwards if Gooch wins the.
No, you have to write Gooch on your forehead.
All right, with my pants pulled down and me bent over backwards. That's what it is. If Taylor Gooch wins the tournament, that's what you guys are gonna have to see for an hour. It'll be an hour. It'll just me talking bent over backwards. I know Tyler Xander told me he was thinking about starting in OnlyFans earlier, so maybe that's potential content.
Yeah, there are not enough DFS players who are in OnlyFans. I think it's a market to test. I
agree, and
I think Josh Engelman's the closest guy to OnlyFans. I do think people bend over backwards for those Excel sheets.
Who, if we had to power rank at our company, which 3 people would get the most traction on an OnlyFans account?
Obviously, namesake Alex Baker, right? Awesome.
Yeah, Alex is one without a doubt. Alex would certainly do some damage on OnlyFans.
I mean, I has to. I mean, people would want to pick his brain about Fantasy Cruncher, things like that. I mean, he has to be one. I think he's a runaway one. I don't even know if there's a close second.
So, well, the other thing too is because people know how well versed Alex is in street combat. So I think people don't know how athletic he is. So that's something else that I think would just interest people in general. People might want to ask him, for fighting advice. They might want to know how he became such a dangerous street fighter and how he's undefeated and how he's killed multiple men with his bare fists. And I think people will probably want to know that information. So Alex would be up there.
You're breaking news to me, but yeah, no, we just wrote a resume for him for his OnlyFans debut.
Yeah. So Alex number 1.
There's not even a close second. I don't even have a close second.
Jay Kari.
Sure. Yeah, Jay Curry could definitely be a close second for sure.
But that would just be because Jay Curry probably the consensus most handsome man at the company. So I think that would help him just in terms of getting women to sign up. Third, though. Who'd you say? Oh, of course. How could, okay. Yeah, I've screwed up this entire thing. Emac's going to be our president in 2024. That's who everybody wants to see on OnlyFans. Do you know how many, historically, do you know how many presidents have been on OnlyFans, Ryan?
I don't know. Maybe the next president will be. Who knows?
Exactly. To this point, it's been 0. So a lot of people want to know, like, what is it about Emac that's going to make him president in 2024? And here's what it is. Have you ever had a presidential candidate that's been on OnlyFans? No. But Emac is a man of the people. He's going to be releasing free content on OnlyFans, and that is what is going to push him to becoming our president in 2024.
There you go. You should be the campaign manager. I think you got this down.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody's advocated for Emac more for president than me. I've got the T-shirt, which I wear around town, by the way. I go out wearing my Emac 2024 shirt.
Oh my God. We need like Twitter, like it needs to be posted on Twitter. Otherwise it's not real nowadays.
Well, Emac's in chat too. He just said there will be no P-tape. Well, sir, you have lost one customer on your OnlyFans. I'll tell you that much. But that aside, Emac, I'm happy you're here in the chat. We've got, so Emac, Alex, and Jay Curry all going to be making an OnlyFans account in the near future. We got a super chat from 8Game for $1.69. We appreciate you. I appreciate the joke as well. Yeah, what is going on in the Josh plays DFS Spags? Yeah, people don't know that Spags actually left this company to go start an OnlyFans. He was having a lot of success with it, and that's why he went elsewhere. People ask every once in a while what Spags is up to. OnlyFans. Let's see what's going on in the basketball game now, because the score now 22-16. 8Game. I want an H on OnlyFans. Do you now? They would probably censor him.
To take a look at Otto Porter did enter the rotation. I want to say for Loon. He did come in for Loon.
Yeah, we've got so Looney. Actually, Looney didn't even play. I mean, Looney crushed.
No, sorry, Jordan Poole. Okay, yeah, it was Poole and Porter entered the rotation for Thompson and Looney at the same time.
By the way, Porter, big start. We had this debate about whether we wanted Otto Porter or Looney. So far, the answer looks like both, because Porter 2 points, 2 rebounds, and an assist in 3 minutes. And then Looney, 6 points, 4 rebounds, and an assist in his 5.5 minutes. So as of right now, you probably want both Porter and Looney in your lineups.
One thing we so far, Luka Doncic is not technically running away with it. There is Steph Curry making some noise with it. 8-3-1 versus 2-2-3. Come on, Looney's the other guy. It's Draymond Green has a steal. So Luka's like, for his salary, he's not running away with it. So for to be like an optimal captain. So we'll see how that transpires. I'm very curious to see who the captain will be on the slate. Also, no Frank Ntilikina yet to enter the rotation.
No, one other thing that's going to be key. Maxi Kleber, 2 personal fouls in 4 minutes. He checks off the court. And
so
Davis
they're going
Bertans,
small with Finney Smith, Bertans playing the big, the front court, which is interesting to see. Yeah,
they don't really have too many options now, because with Looney not on the court for the Warriors, the Mavericks aren't going to want to go big here, and they got Kleber in foul trouble. You know, Kleber plays kind of their smaller lineups a lot of the time. I don't think they're going to want to go to Powell in that lineup. So this is going to be interesting to see what happens here with this team. Can we see Finney Smith play some center minutes maybe today?
The disrespect to Boban. Come on, man. I was kidding. No, I do think I'm not shocked that we're seeing some Finney Smith at the 5. It's something that definitely is happening right now. I don't know how long that's sustainable. We'll see what happens in this set in terms of like, do the Warriors pull away? Steph Curry's playing the full first quarter rotation. Let's see how these guys are shooting. I'm very curious on how these guys are shooting right now.
Yeah. So the guy who, by the way, Reggie Bullock has gotten his opportunities. They are just not falling. Reggie Bullock 1 for 5 from 3 in 9 minutes. He's out there chucking. He's trying to do it for me. It's just not falling. Overall, some poor shooting from the Mavericks. They are 3 of 15 from 3. The Warriors 2 of 7. The 3-point shooting from the Warriors, uncharacteristically terrible in the playoffs. And we've seen multiple times where they've lost games just based on the not hitting threes they would normally hit. I can't remember which game it was against the Warriors, but there's somebody online, I wish I could credit who it is, tracks 3-point attempts and then also how open they are. And then based on those players' 3-point attempts, like what the rough estimate is of what those shots could fall. In one game, the Warriors were minus 27 from the 3-point line in terms of expected points that they would have had knocking down three. So it's been a rough shooting playoff so far for the Warriors. Obviously, it hasn't mattered that much. They've made it to the Western Conference Finals. But yeah, it's been a little bit of a struggle shooting from them for this point.
The one guy I do think, looking back at it, I forgot to mention in greater detail, Damian Lee was getting minutes throughout the Memphis series because of the Gary Payton injury. In 4 or 5 minutes at that salary, someone that we could have definitely set as a pivot to Ntilikina. And it wouldn't shock me on this type of slate if Luka just pops off for like 60 plus fantasy points. The 1K guy puts up a 0 and you could win. Unlikely, it has happened in the past before, but something that is to keep an eye on to see how that transpires. Wiggins playing excellent so far in terms of an offensive production standpoint. 4 or 5
points
from the field, 2 or 2 from 3. Playing like the first overall draft pick and kind of a Wiggins stan. So I'm happy to see Andrew Wiggins thrive in this system. He's kind of the glorified Harrison Barnes, and that team won 73-9. And this team is very close to that team, minus Gary. If they have Gary Payton, I think they're very similar.
Who do you think's better, peak Harrison Barnes or peak Andrew? And I guess I won't say peak Harrison Barnes. The Harrison Barnes that was with the Warriors, or this version of Andrew Wiggins with the Warriors?
So
who's a better player?
Harrison Barnes gets a better up because he disappeared in the 16 finals, right? Andrew Wiggins has played so well in his role throughout these playoffs where it's Andrew Wiggins for me. I think Wiggins knows the role, real perspective, plays, I want to say, better defense than Harrison Barnes than Harrison Barnes did. Harrison Barnes was a very good defender there, but Wiggins has turned it up to another level where Wiggins is guarding the best player on the other team. Harrison Barnes wasn't doing that. Andre Iguodala was. So it's Wiggins for me.
Same. And by the way, jokes about Wiggins aside, because he should not have started in the All-Star game this year.
Yeah.
But there was never a point in time where you would even have considered Harrison Barnes to be within the realm of All-Star. And I mean, part of the reasons Wiggins that ended up starting the All-Star game, the forward options kind of sucked in the Western Conference. Like there wasn't really somebody else you look at and be like, oh, this guy should have been a slam dunk. Like for me, I thought that Jaren Jackson Jr. should have made the All-Star team over Andrew Wiggins this year. But that aside, Wiggins was at least in the mix as an All-Star. That was never the case for Harrison Barnes. And Wiggins, I wouldn't be surprised if he makes second team all defense this year. It's something that's within the realm possibility. So he's an excellent role player for this team. And I could get behind him being the guy. Let's see what is going well.
Steph Curry missed another free throw.
Oh my, is he 0 for 3 now? Or did he make
2? He went 2 of 3 from the line. Someone fouled him from.
Okay, but he started 0 for 3.
Correct. No, he started. He hit the first one, missed the second.
Let's see, Steph Curry.
Looney back on the floor for Draymond Green. Ntilikina enters the rotation. So now this is when the 1K lineups, if Ntilikina starts putting up some fantasy points, not to say to create some separation, I don't think Ntilikina is putting up a bunch of fantasy points. Looney picks up his personal foul. That's a 1 on Loon. But Ntilikina, why bring up Ntilikina? Because he was like the value play everyone's going to. The Warriors are up 10. Shout out to the sweep I mentioned earlier in the podcast. I got to take my victory lap after the first quarter because sweeps happen after quarter 1.
Yeah, exactly. This is what happens in series. First of all, sweeps are determined in the first quarter. The other thing also, every single DFS contest is determined in the first 10 minutes of the game. You know why? Because that's when we're on the air. That's what we have to react to. That's what we have to overreact to. So with that in mind, who is the guy that you are most concerned about? We're about to sign off, guys. Do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Who is the player off to a slow start in this game that you are most concerned about from a fantasy perspective?
Slow start. I'm not too shocked that all of Dallas is off to a slow start. I'm concerned about Klay Thompson. I got to see why he didn't shoot as much as he did. He only took a 1-shot attempt. Draymond, it's usually on Draymond to get him going early on. So I do think that will change in the second quarter when Steph Curry does sit down. So Klay, someone maybe, are they having a different defensive scheme on him? And I need to see, are they trapping Steph like they did to Paul and Booker at times? Is that why Wiggins is getting so many open shots or is taking so many shots? Is that something that's happening?
It's kind of hard to say because I have the game on my computer while we're talking, but I also haven't been paying close enough attention.
Yeah, it's something that I want to take a look at because that obviously will change things down the line. And one thing with Showdown and single game as we wrap up here, how you approach game one is not how you should approach game two. And it changes from game to game. It's like you kind of not to forget what happened in game one. Try to take away like the high level points of rotations where rotations worked. I sometimes look at plus minuses when guys were on the court of what happened and understanding when it happened. Don't look at plus minus if the game was like a 30-point blowout, if someone's getting blowout run. Try to be able to quantify it in a proper, appropriate, like head-to-head battle type of situation, because I do think recency bias ownership is elevated to a whole nother level in Showdown single game contests and in the conference finals and finals especially.
Yeah, we've seen that a lot in the playoffs so far, and there's going to be a lot more shows for us to talk about. Rayen, thank you very much for joining today. I hope you guys enjoyed having Rayen on. It's nice to get somebody else doing the show with. By the way, nothing actually against Eric. I love Eric, but it's nice to do a show with Rayen as well. Guys, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll be back tomorrow at the usual time. Good luck tonight. Enjoy the game, and we'll see you later.